Part 40. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Siahua. Chapter 400. Get out of class is over, and Nuan and Luchang'an have no classes. There are still more than 2 hours until dinner time. This period of time is very suitable for campus couples to walk around, see, chat, and have dinner together. Zhang Dao and Bai Wanwan left hand in hand. In high school, Zhang Dao and Nuan played together, and Bai Wanwan played more with Bai Hui. But in college, the relationship between old high school classmates naturally became much closer. After all, Lian and Nuanhe and Bai Hui, the two rival giants of the attached high school, have developed a superficial relationship that involves visiting dormitories. And Nuan bent down to tie her shoes because her shoelaces were loose. Her hair was messed up and she found a mirror to tie her hair. In short, there were some objective reasons that prevented her from leaving quickly, and she became the last person to leave the gym. You still want to play volleyball, right? And Nuan lowered her head and could see him behind her. His shadow covered hers obnoxiously. When she suddenly heard Luchang'an's question, she couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. She thought he was going to explain to her why Qinyan held the key to his house, how he was going to handle this matter to her satisfaction, what he would do to appease Nuan, and so on. And Nuan even thought that if Luchang'an proposed a stupid solution like giving her another key, she would never accept it. This question made Nuan couldn't help but divert her attention. In fact, when she was in high school, she knew about the extraordinary strength of the Hunan University volleyball team. She was mentally prepared for it, and she still filled out the registration form for the volleyball team in the courtyard when school started. Her name was also included in the roster for the rookie training camp, but she knew that it would be difficult for her to even be the main player in the academy team. After all, she is a beautiful girl. Even the details of her body, the size of her hands, the size of her feet, the thickness of her bones, and the lines of her muscles all fit the definition of a beautiful girl. In high school, she was able to make up for it with a little bit of talent and skills. There is a place for them, but in college, those girls who really have special physical talents have an absolute advantage in physical fitness. During the summer vacation, her thighs were reduced by a circle. Now the best thing for her to do seems to be to record dancing videos like Bai Fen, and then attract groups of leg fans and face fans. But Nuan really has no interest in this kind of thing, because in his heart he doesn't like Bai Hui very much. How could he learn what Bai Hui does? That is equivalent to giving Bai Hui a sense of superiority. And Nuan did not answer Luchang'an's question, nor did she nod. This question already belonged to her to untie the knot in her heart. It was just a small question that occasionally made her feel a little disappointed. She was angry now. This was a big deal. He couldn't try to divert her attention. Height is a problem. I checked the information of the school volleyball women's team. The shortest one is 1.78 meters, and there is the strongest one. Their arms are thicker than your thighs. If you want to play with them, it's perfect, but it's too unfair to others. Luchang'an said regretfully, there is no fairness in this world, but no one will forget to pursue fairness, and we must also properly maintain fairness. And Nuan bit her lip and exhaled, feeling that the bangs on her forehead were standing on end with anger. Did this guy come to her to reconcile, or did he think she wasn't angry enough? But sports, in the final analysis, it is a combination of jumping ability, reaction ability, body coordination, endurance, explosive power, and other comprehensive qualities. As for height, it is not a particularly important thing. There are many outstanding players in the NBA. The famous dwarf, if a short and thin person like you wants to shine, you can still strive for it and work hard, Luchang'an encouraged Nuan. And Nuan clenched her fists. Sure enough, love had blinded her eyes. For a long time, she actually felt like Luchang'an was full of sweet words and as gentle as a girl's pad. Damn it, now is his true face, How could I forget it? What he is best at is not stabbing you, but after discovering that you have been stabbed, he will happily spread salt and even say that he is here to help you kill viruses and inflammation. You must not have forgotten, right? When I was in high school, I was about the same height as you, but in order to let you feel the happiness of standing on tiptoes, I worked hard, and finally grew a little taller. No, I should have grown taller. Xiao, you said that if this height is transferred to you, at least in terms of height, you will have no problem, right? And Nuan's height does not have many other disadvantages in playing volleyball, but this is also an indicator. The key is that Lu Chang'an can't let her grow too tall. He likes tall and beautiful girls, but she is too tall to be practical. After getting used to his height, and Nuan no longer cared about his previous height. When she thought about it and compared it, she was surprised by the contrast. What he meant was, could he make her grow so much? By the way, I remembered, he invented a weird height growing exercise in high school, and Zhang Dao followed it. However, Zhang Dao didn't practice it seriously. It's hard to say whether it would be effective on girls. After all, girls' development period comes earlier and ends earlier than boys. Although An Nuan was not confident in any of her physical attributes except her height, she still had a sweet taste. Who else but him could understand that she really cared about this matter? What a good best friend. Even her mother never cared about her hidden regrets about playing volleyball. But he still has to be angry. Not only did he not explain Qinyan's matter, he even laughed at her just now. He still has to be angry, continue to be angry, the kind that can't be coaxed. Height is only one factor. Even if you are not tall enough, if I can find a way to improve your explosive power, jumping ability, and reaction ability, when your overall strength is sufficient, how difficult will it be to prove that you pass the assessment and enter the school team? Lu Chang'an is very confident in this. Although he did not use some biotechnology with unknown sequelae and side effects to modify the human body like the Nikola Tesla Biological Research Center and MRS Karnstein, but his sperm UN itself has such a role. As long as An Nuan absorbs enough essence, her body will naturally be much stronger than ordinary people, and it will not make her figure look like Neza. Hold it! Hold it! An Nuan clenched her fists and bumped them lightly in front of her chest. Lu Chang'an knew her too well, so even if what he said seemed unrealistic, it still aroused curiosity and expectation. As a science student, she clearly knows that genes determine the upper limit. No matter how hard she works, her talent cannot break through the threshold of comprehensive qualities such as explosive power, jumping ability, and reaction ability. Human beings are such creatures. Desire gives birth to hope, and the power of hope not only makes people move forward and work hard, but also blinds people's reason. For example, some people will believe in the fake Emperor Qianlong and Sixi's treasure. Will believe in the unfreezing of national assets. These are scams that can be exposed in the eyes of onlookers. What's more, how could Lu Chang'an lie to himself? Wrong. He just knows how to lie to himself. He and that woman Qinyan both went home together, and Nuan won't listen to anything until he explains the matter clearly. He doesn't want to listen to him about growing taller or volleyball. Continue to be angry. My girlfriend should be the center of attention. She is not my private property. I want her to be radiant. Especially, I hope to see in her eyes that when she is doing what she likes, this kind of warm light has always attracted me. Lu Chang'an raised his head and looked at the sunlight slanting through the scattered leaves. I still remember the first time I saw her high-fiving and cheering with her teammates on the court. That year she was in high school. 16-year-old in Nuan, the joy on her cheeks bloomed with sweet gold like honey, as if all the sunshine should reflect her at the 45-degree side, making her dazzling and bathing her in victory. The light of the goddess's love. From the first time I saw her, I felt the heartbeat of Guanju that traveled through thousands of years. I was once again indulged in her beauty. Now she has finally become my girlfriend. I am willing fulfill all her wishes at any cost, even if she is a licking dog. You're not. I am. I am, and Nuan turned around, with tears in her eyes, and hugged tightly the man who loved her most in the world. Obviously I'm still angry, but I like Lu Chang'an so much that I can't help it. Disgusting Lu Chang'an. It's the last day of 2018, and it's also the last day of December. Don't forget to vote for your monthly vote. Xiaohua's recent efforts have set a record for the past 5 years. If I continue, I will no longer be a salty person. Fish. Please save me and give me motivation. Thank you all for your monthly votes. 10,000 words have been updated. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 401. Something happened between a man and a woman. In fact, the most important thing is not to tell her the truth, what are the reasons behind the unhappy scene she saw, and what reasons can be forgiven, or to tell her to be rational and objective. Reason. These are not important at all. For the girl, she is not happy, so who cares about the misunderstanding behind it? Just like the matter between Lu Chang'an and An Nuan, even if An Nuan knew all the details and felt that Lu Chang'an did not do it intentionally, would it be useful? Because she would only pay attention to one point, Qin Yanan got the key to his house and showed it off in front of her. Lu Chang'an didn't think he had done anything wrong and had nothing to explain. But An Nuan was unhappy, but Lu Chang'an was willing to make her happy. At this time, there is no need to talk about the original thing, just find a way to make her happy again. Girls are like this, since you still like me, since you still make me like you so much, since you have made me happy again, then I don't care so much about other things, I'll settle the score later. Two people who really like each other have a strong desire to reconcile no matter when. And Nuan hugged Lu Chang'an hard, rested her cheek on his shoulder, rubbed her nose gently against his neck, hummed softly, and pouted little by little. Why was she still angry with him when she was still angry with him? Do you want to take the initiative to jump into his arms? But when I was hugged by him, I really felt like I couldn't love her more. I must be the happiest girlfriend on the campus of Hunan University. Lu Chang'an stroked her long hair and lifted the hairband from her hair with his fingers. The smooth and straight long hair always made people want to stroke it from the neck to the bottom. The scent of An Nuan is very pure. Water splashes from the stones in the stream, and it touches the small flowers sticking out of the soil. The clean and sweet fragrance of flowers with water vapor. This is completely different from the body fragrance pickled in cosmetics. I lowered my head and saw that her cheeks and earlobes were so delicate. There were thin fuzz-like halos on the soft earlobes. They were so cute that they looked like they had been smeared with a layer of hair. It's creamy and makes you want to rub it in. Are you reconciled? Lu Chang'an asked softly. Not yet, and Nuan twisted her body and said with a groan, and I'm still angry. But he still hugged Lu Chang'an tightly and refused to let go, just because the sweetness in his heart spread, making his whole body warm and unwilling to leave his arms. Then take your time to get angry. The feeling of having a beautiful woman in his arms is wonderful, and Lu Chang'an has always been someone who likes to enjoy it slowly. Then you continue to coax me. This is the benefit and privilege of being angry. But I'm so talented that I only have the nerve to say disgusting love words when I'm in love. Now that this feeling has passed, I can't say it for a while, Lu Chang'an said regretfully. You know I've always been a thin-skinned person. And Nuan raised one hand and pinched Lu Chang'an's cheek. It was obviously still as thick as the guy in high school who bumped into someone's chest with his elbow and said he could rub it for her to clear up the blood vessels. Then I will be angry for a long time, waiting for you to coax me again, and Nuan said in a delicate voice, rubbing his neck. When a girl acts coquettishly, she can turn into a cat in an instant. It's really magical. But I'm afraid that at some point, Professor Lu will rush out again and beat us all over the face. Lu Chang'an reminded An Nuan, why don't you go somewhere else to get angry? Where can I get angry? An Nuan asked. It's you who wants to be angry, not me. I'm still angry that you don't obey me. Go get angry at your house while your mother isn't home. What do you want to do? And Nuan blushed and let go of Lu Chang'an's neck. Generally speaking, after a boy said sweet words, he would take the opportunity to do something to a girl, so he had to be careful. Coax you. I don't believe it, and Nuan left Lu Chang'an's arms, embarrassed to say that he would definitely want to do whatever he wanted to her. After all, Lu Chang'an always made it difficult to determine what he would do next. So smart. And Nuan gave Lu Chang'an a hammer. I'll go back and improve the seedling pulling technique first, and change it to massage and traction. One night, if you open a window, I'll crawl in and massage you. Lu Chang'an said serious things seriously, lest she think that she was joke. You. And Nuan's cheeks turned red. This person clearly wanted to do bad things, but he actually offered to massage her. Climb the window and come in for a massage. Do you think she is an 11 or 12-year-old girl who is so easy to coax? Oops. After An Nuan stammered, he secretly yelled, oh no, he was obviously wary. What should he do if he backed down? You should pretend to believe him so that you can appear innocent. This is just the first step. Body transformation for ordinary people is not an easy task. According to the description of the Immortal novel, this is going against the will of heaven. You see, people like Xiao Yan and Han Li were considered to have insufficient qualifications at the beginning. Well, you can imagine how difficult it is to improve one's qualifications and talents. Lu Chang'an said serious things seriously, lest she think she was joking. You can do whatever you want. And Nuan's cheeks turned red, but her cheeks bulged, and she hummed helplessly, who asked me to be your girlfriend? Only I will give you. You're the guinea pig. Guinea pigs are easy to find. No. I am the only one who can be a guinea pig. I am the only guinea pig. All the other guinea pigs have been killed by me. Lu Chang'an even took a step back. The furious look of the little white mouse in front of him was so fierce. You have to send me the message secretly, don't let others see it. And Nuan reminded Lu Chang'an, because she already knew that when Lu Chang'an was in class, that Zhu Huntang would sit with Lu Chang'an if nothing happened, and maybe she would see him. And Nuan said that she would not interfere with Lu Chang'an's normal interactions with the opposite sex. Although this Zhu Huntang is pretty good looking, and Nuan is not weak. What's more, she is taller than Zhu Huntang, and Zhu Huntang doesn't have the beauty that Lu Chang'an loves. She has big breasts, but the key is that she is a wealthy lady with a bad temper, and she is not the type that Lu Chang'an would be attracted to. It's different for women like Qin Yinan. She has a good figure, it's simply unscientific. How can a woman look like all the men in the world want to take her as their own? This is the kind of woman that Yawu is talking about. The most important thing is that this woman is very scheming. She pretends to get along with Lu Chang'an's siblings, cares and considerates Lu Chang'an in life, and also takes care of Lu Chang'an in school. She uses the most terrifying kind of moisturizing. The subtlety and silent method made Lu Chang'an accustomed to having such a woman beside him who cared about her. And Nuan is even sure that Qin Yinan's next plan is to continue to accompany her silently in this way until she suddenly disappears at the right time. At this time, Lu Chang'an would suddenly wake up and realize that he was used to having her by his side, and even felt that he couldn't live without her. This is Qin Yinan, not the big-breasted and brainless type. Compared with Qin Yinan, Bai Hui is still a little behind. After all, Bai Hui, a woman named An Nuan, still knows more about An Nuan. Even if Bai Hui has a crush on Lu Chang'an, she will be reserved. At most, she will just put eye drops on An Nuan. Okay, Lu Chang'an nodded, but you can let others see the window message I sent you. I have no objection. I don't want it, it's so embarrassing. And Nuan squirmed to express her objection. However, there is one thing you have to make clear before I become a guinea pig for you. What's the matter? What do you think? How would I know if you didn't tell me? Real. Zhou Shuling actually has the key to my house. There is no need to touch her belly or send roundworms to explore her brain. Lu Chang'an also knows what she wants to find out. When she is in a good mood, she is willing to listen to the explanation. The point is that this is when explanation is useful. Do I care about Sister Zhou? And Nuan pulled the skin on Lu Chang'an's waist to prevent him from changing the focus. Aunt Ling also has the key to my house. Can the neighbor be the same as that woman? Well, I don't even want to mention Qinyanan's name. She has become that woman. Actually, it's all Zhou Shuling's fault. Lu Chang'an really felt this way. I usually don't lock the door, and there aren't anything valuable at home. There are a lot of old men and women wandering around in the community during the day. When I see unfamiliar faces, do you remember that time you came here and just stared at you? Thieves usually don't come to places like this. What about Zhou Shuling? When she went upstairs and saw that I wasn't at home and the door was open, she would lock the door. She never made an exception. He refused to listen even though he said it. Only then did the key exist, and Qinyanan took a key. Oh. The meaning of your "oh" is that you want me to guess whether you want to continue to explain. Let me guess how to coax you next, let me guess how you view this matter, and let me guess how to solve it to your liking. And Nuan twisted her body and groaned. Lu Chang'an nodded. He sympathized with the many boys who became boyfriends nowadays. Originally, in their world, pressing AST would move forward, backward, left, and right. Pressing core would activate skills, and pressing DF twice would trigger the move. It's good to have flash therapy, but suddenly one day, a game appears. When you press any button, you can only guess what effect it will have. How the hell does it play? Many times, it's not that games aren't fun for girlfriends, it's just that they're too difficult to play. I don't know. I'm going back to walk the dog. Lu Chang'an held An Nuan's face in his hands and kissed her hard. Bye. An Nuan stamped her feet anxiously and hurriedly caught up with Lu Chang'an. She already wanted to talk to Lu Chang'an. If this matter was not resolved at this time, she would definitely not be able to eat today. What if you don't tell me the key? I won't eat for 3 days. An Nuan hugged Lu Chang'an, raised her head and glared at him like an angry pufferfish, threatening him so cutely. Let's see how he could bear it. I'll give you the house book. Really? Really, it's so annoying. And Nuan couldn't suppress the happiness in her heart, and couldn't help but jump up and down with Lu Chang'an in her arms. Unlike many girls who started to consider love based on reality early, An Nuan had no realistic needs and desires for a house, but the exaggeration of countless concepts in society makes people feel that this thing is of great significance. From any angle, it is more consistent with the identity of one's real girlfriend than holding a key. Even though it was just held for her, and there was no adding of names or any other operations involving property, An Nuan was happy enough. She felt beautiful just holding it, and she didn't want anything else at all. I like you, An Nuan chuckled, not even blushing after confessing her love. I get annoyed when I see you. No, you have to like me too. But you're so annoying. You have to like me super even if I'm annoying. I don't like it anymore. You like me, you like me, you like me. The conversation between lovers has no nutrition and is over. Lu Chang'an sent An Nuan back. Although she hadn't received the house certificate yet, An Nuan felt like she was floating as she walked. She was always on the clouds and couldn't fall down. You can leave that key to Qinyanan. There is no need to change the locks at home, An Nuan said calmly. Lu Chang'an looked at An Nuan doubtfully. Really, don't take it back and don't change the locks, An Nuan quickly explained. I'm really not angry anymore. This matter has passed. Since when did this jealous person become so easy to talk to? Lu Chang'an thought for a while. Forget it. It would be too disrespectful to actually go to Qinyanan to get the key back, and changing the lock would be even more troublesome. I'm reasonable. and Nuan used a coquettish tone to solidify Lu Chang'an's will to not change the lock or get the key back, lest he waver. Lu Chang'an nodded. And Nuan walked calmly leaning on Lu Chang'an's arm. Since the key was with that woman Qin Yanan, then after this woman tasted the joy of victory once, she would definitely not be able to resist the next one. Then she would hold another key in Nuan's hand. Nuan circled around in front of her, and Nuan took out the house book. Ha 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 ha, and Nuan can't wait for the scene to happen soon. After wasting a lot of time on the road, when Nuan and Lu Chang'an returned home, Lu Yuwang had just arrived downstairs after class. "You're back, come in and sit down," Lu Yuwang invited quietly, while glancing at Nuan. Nuan blushed and turned away. After entering the house, Nuan washed the fruits and asked Lu Chang'an to sit in the living room and watch TV, and then ran to Lu Yuwang's room. Lu Yuwang was about to lock the door and change clothes when he rolled his eyes at Nuan again. "What do you think I mean?" Nuan said dissatisfied. "I can't look at you anymore? How dare I hit you?" Lu Yuwang slapped Nuan's little volleyball. "Don't tell Lu Chang'an that I'm knitting. I want to surprise him, but if he knew it already and my knitting is not that good, he might be disappointed," Nuan warned in a low voice. "Don't you have to wait until winter to reconcile with him?" Lu Yuwang said with a sneer. "That's what you said about me, I didn't say it," Nuan denied with her hands behind her back. "I only hit him when I'm not angry," Lu Yuwang imitated Nuan in speaking. "I want to prove that I am the best girlfriend. When I give these to him, he will know how good I am. He will know how wrong it is to make me angry, he will understand how heartbreaking it will be to make me angry, and he will know how to have a long memory." Although it was slightly different, Nuan pursed her lips and glared at her mother. "I see, you are just a cheater. How long has it been? You have been coaxed into confusion again, and it has made him feel heartbroken. Only one day later, you have decided to give him a surprise." Lu Yuwang hated the fact that iron was not made of steel. "I have to stay angry for a long time before he can coax me out of anger. Don't imitate me," and Nuan couldn't bear it anymore. She showed off first and then said, "He said give me the house book." After saying that, Nuan walked around the room triumphantly and opened the wardrobe in a big way. She felt much more confident. She went to look at her mother's breast tattoo, maybe she could wear it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 402. While Lu Yuwang was changing her clothes, she saw Nuan being too swollen and ready to try Lu Yuwang's tattooed breasts. Although Lu Yuwang thinks that Nuan should be angry for a while. If a girl is so easy to coax, men will definitely not care about her emotions so much in the future. Lu Yuwang has also read some articles by teacher Mimu and can guide Nuan. Warm. But she also had to admit that Lu Chang'an had even taken out the house book. It was understandable that Nuan was not angry but very happy now. After all, women attach great importance to meaning. They say that being with you is Valentine's Day every day, but if you really don't have any preparations for Valentine's Day and Chinese Valentine's Day, it still won't work. They will always say it is very meaningful, there is meaning here, there is meaning there, but in fact they are often things that have no practical meaning at all. The house book is very meaningful, so Lu Chang'an is very sincere. Lu Yuwang didn't think Lu Chang'an had any responsibility in yesterday's incident, but now he is willing to coax Nuan like this, just like the time Lu Yuwang saw the cheongsam made by Lu Chang'an. All the same, there is a greater degree of recognition and appreciation. But this is not the reason for Lu Yuwang to completely give up some detective activities. "Don't touch my underwear." Lu Yuwang reluctantly opened Nuan's hand. Nuan was in a good mood and didn't care about her mother's sarcasm. "You go and accompany Lu Chang'an, let him have dinner here to celebrate your reconciliation." Lu Yuwang saw Nuan's eyes looking thoughtful, and said quickly, "Old Ling is at home alone, I will call her over for dinner later." And Nuan was a little confused when she saw that her mother actually proposed to celebrate the reconciliation between her and Lu Chang'an, but since she also called Professor Ling over, she probably just talked about celebrating the reconciliation casually, and didn't think about anything else. She walked out of the room to talk to Lu Chang'an. Say. After a while, Lu Yuang walked out of the room and asked, "Chang'an, Professor Ling brought a turtle over here, can you do it?" "Definitely," and Nuan said proudly, even though she had never eaten Lu Chang'an's turtle, nor had she heard that Lu Chang'an could cook turtle. But flying in the sky, running on the ground, swimming in the water, how could there be anything that my boyfriend couldn't do? "Let me make it according to your taste," Lu Chang'an nodded. Not only can he make it, but he can also make it in many ways. Generally speaking, a woman with a more refined life and work wouldn't be able to deal with turtles. "Then I'll bother you to cook tonight. How about eating here tonight? There are still dishes in the refrigerator. You can take a look later." Lu Yuang went to make tea enthusiastically again. "Your mother now approves of my relationship with you?" Lu Chang'an asked in Nuan. "Don't be arrogant and complacent, and continue to please me," and Nuan quickly said that he was not meat on his chopping board yet. He should not be arrogant and complacent, and he must keep up his efforts. "I've given you my house book, what else do you want?" And Nuan proudly held Lu Chang'an's arm and shook him to reward him. After Lu Yuang made tea, Professor Ling opened the door and came over, holding a big turtle in a net bag in his hand, and said happily, "This turtle is wild. A friend of mine caught it in the river at the farmhouse. It's so vicious, when I poked it with my chopsticks, it jumped up and tried to bite me." A turtle that jumps up and bites? The women obviously didn't care about whether the turtle would jump up and bite people. Lu Yuang shouted to kill it quickly. And Nuan lamented that the turtle was so fierce. Professor Ling said that it had been treated much more honestly by him. Naturally, it was Lu Chang'an who was responsible for killing the turtles. "Chang'an, I'm sorry to trouble you, but I am also half mother-in-law. I want to try your craft today." Professor Ling handed the turtle to Lu Chang'an. "Aunt Ling," and Nuan said angrily, "there are still vegetables in the refrigerator. You can cook what you want. I'll call you and get 2 bottles of wine to drink in the evening." After Lu Yuang finished speaking, he added, "I'm so happy." "What's going on?" Professor Ling asked. It's okay, you can have some drinks with Chang'an later." Lu Yuang called Professor Ling over, because Professor Ling's drinking capacity is indeed good. Lu Chang'an went to the kitchen to cook turtle. The best part of soft-shell turtle is the hem of the skirt. The monk Xianguang in the southern Tang dynasty once made a wish in front of the Buddha: a goose will have 4 legs and a turtle will wear double skirts. Goose web meat and soft-shell turtle skirt are both very delicious, but they are only available in small quantities, which is very rare. Zhonglin magazine records, when a guest stayed in Jinyun Temple, the monk was surprised that he had a rare delicacy. The turtle tasted very delicious, but he had no skirt ears. This means that a guest came to Jinyun Temple to stay overnight, and the monk cooked for the guest. I couldn't help but eat the finished turtle skirt first. In many places, there is a dish called top one. It is considered auspicious to cook this dish for your children before the college entrance examination. Lu Chang'an was about to kill the turtle when An Nuan ran in to help. "Stop making trouble and wait to eat." Lu Chang'an chased people away. "I'm not going out, I'll just stand here and watch you." And Nuan stood against the wall and sat in the living room for a while without seeing Lu Chang'an, so she missed him. Lu Chang'an ignored her, killed the turtle, washed it, removed the black membrane on the skin, cut it into pieces and boiled it in water, burned the lard until it was 80% thick, stir-fried the green onion and ginger slices, added the turtle and stir-fried, and added other ingredients. After stewing, use the other side of the stove to fry winter bamboo shoots and bacon to serve with rice. Professor Ling came to visit several times and couldn't help but admire him. The boyfriend in Nuan found was really good. Last time I heard that the one in my family chased him from school to home. Little girls are like this. But what's the use? How many of today's young people are capable of living a stable life, and why are they still lying in the hospital? Professor Ling pulled in Nuan out and cleared the table. Lu Chang'an brought the dishes. And Nuan stopped letting him work. He started pouring drinks, setting out the dishes and chopsticks, and helped him take off his apron before sitting down. Next to him, he looked like an obedient and helpful wife. Drink some wine today. Lu Yuwang opened a bottle of wine, took 4 small wine glasses, and filled them all. I want a drink, and Nuan poured herself another glass of grape juice. Whatever you want. Lu Yuwang didn't force her and raised his glass to Lu Chang'an. First of all, I would like to pay tribute to the workers who cook. Lu Chang'an was very generous and drank it all in one go. Then I'd like to toast you too. Professor Ling also raised his glass. Since she is half mother-in-law, she has to give her face, and Lu Chang'an did it in one go. You drink less, and Nuan served Lu Chang'an some food. Don't just drink without eating. Yes, yes, let's eat vegetables, Lu Yuwang said calmly. Soft shell turtle, winter bamboo shoots and bacon, red cabbage and greens, fried chicken and mushrooms, steamed shrimps with garlic vermicelli. It's really hard work. Chang'an's cooking is really good. I feel like so many restaurants don't have this taste. Professor Ling was really surprised. What kind of girlfriend can't find such cooking skills? This girl in Nuan will definitely be fattened up in the future. You're in for a treat. Lu Yuwang filled Professor Ling's glass with wine and poured some himself. The two women were drinking. Lu Chang'an was embarrassed not to accompany him, right? This night, Lu Yuwang drank so much wine for the first time. She is not a particularly good drinker, but she has a good relationship with a professor in the School of Biology who studies biological hangover solutions. She got a biological yeast hangover medicine from her that is said to last for 1,000 cups. She took the medicine before eating. And Nuan ruined her good deeds yesterday. With such confidence and the help of Professor Ling, can Lu Chang'an be defeated? This guy, why isn't he drunk yet? This was Lu Yuwang's last sober thought. Lu Chang'an looked at the time. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening. And Nuan had been drunk for a long time and was now lying on the sofa. Professor Ling was halfway through drinking. He went home after receiving the call and never came back. He had been drinking with Lu Yuwang, and now Lu Yuwang was lying opposite her. Lu Chang'an went to the bathroom. When he was unprepared, especially when the wine was mixed with some love potions, he had been hit by tricks before. However, the saint will not be knocked down twice by the same moves, and the same goes for Lu Chang'an. The most important thing is that Lu Yuwang didn't add anything else to the wine. Lu Chang'an thought that what Lu Yuwang wanted to do today was the same as the reason why she bought a large box of wool yanjai and went to his house for dinner yesterday. Probably while he was drunk, he asked him some things and took his mobile phone to look for clues. How long has it been, and I still feel resentful about it? Women are really not creatures that give up easily. In fact, chatting with Lu Yuwang was quite interesting. Lu Chang'an smiled, stood up and cleared the dining table, then opened Lu Yuwang's bedroom door and helped Lu Yuwang up. It is not a problem for Lu Chang'an that a drunk person is dead. It is just that the smell of wine and aroma are mixed together, making it easier to feel intoxicated than pure alcohol. Lu Yuwang is heavier than An Nuan, which is probably what Lu Chang'an expected An Nuan to be. Her body is symmetrical and soft, that is rare for a mature woman of this age. She does not have too much subcutaneous fat to appear bloated, nor does she appear thin due to gastrointestinal diseases. The sickly skinny texture, especially the astonishingly delicate skin, is not much better than An Nuan. As for the many female college students who stay up late, eat irregularly, and think they are young, it is even more incomparable. Lu Chang'an put Lu Yuwang on the bed, covered her with a quilt, and when he took off her slippers, he found that her big toes were smeared with red nail polish, and there was a lotus with overlapping petals painted on it. What a woman who is as delicate as her toenails. Lu Chang'an placed a glass of water on the bedside, then closed the door and walked out of the room. En Nuan was lying on the sofa, which was more comfortable, so Lu Chang'an took care of Lu Yuwang first. He did not support En Nuan, but hugged her sideways. En Nuan, who was shrinking in his arms, had her eyes closed tightly, and there was something on her cheek. There was a faint blush and her beautiful lips were pursed, as if she was dreaming of something that made her unhappy. En Nuan didn't change her clothes. He held her in his arms to make her chest look firmer. Lu Chang'an kissed her forehead, sat beside her bed, and took off her sweatpants before putting her on the bed. After all, the afternoon class was an aerobics class, and the pants were stained with a lot of dust. Girls were generally not allowed to sit on their beds wearing pants. She wore a skirt in the morning, with safety pants underneath. She changed into sweatpants for physical education class in the afternoon, but she still wore the safety pants. There is nothing wrong with the saying that wine is a matchmaker for sex. Lu Chang'an felt that he should leave quickly, but he remembered Lu Yuwang's toes, so he decided to paint something on En Nuan's toes. Lu Chang'an knew that he had drunk too much, and he actually wanted to do something like this, but it didn't matter. He went to the bathroom to wash his face, then returned to En Nuan's bedroom and found nails of various colors on En Nuan's desk. Oil. When girls are studying, it is a very common habit to suddenly pick up nail polish and apply it on themselves. Lu Chang'an took wet wipes and paper towels and wiped En Nuan's feet. The toes were as delicate as a row of pearls from large to small, or like a newly born little white pig, lying neatly in rows to make people feel comfortable. Play. Lu Chang'an held the warm solace of her feet and began to write and draw on her toes with nail polish and other various tools. By the time Lu Chang'an finished painting, it was already midnight. Lu Chang'an looked at his painting with great satisfaction, lowered his head and kissed En Nuan to prevent her from getting a headache the next day, and then left En Nuan's house. Lu Chang'an returned home, watched En Nuan's video of trying on stockings, and made 2 bottles of facial cream. The next morning, En Nuan woke up and felt a little thirsty. She sat up and thought about it for a while, then realized that it was already the next day. Where was Lu Chang'an? Did you go back by yourself? En Nuan lifted the quilt, took a bottle of water from the desk, drank it, grabbed her hair and walked out. She happened to see her mother walking out of the next room, but it was different from hers. Lu Yuwang's expression was a little uncomfortable. Where's Lu Chang'an? Lu Yuwang leaned over and looked into En Nuan's room. Why is he in my room? En Nuan said shyly, and then finally remembered what happened last night. She seemed to have fallen asleep on the sofa, but these pants, did Lu Chang'an take them off for him, or did he take them off himself? Take it off? Even if he was wearing safety pants now, wouldn't Lu Chang'an do something to himself while he was drunk? He will definitely do it. After all, she is a super beautiful girl and his girlfriend. It is understandable and excusable if he takes action. But he didn't seem to be able to do that. With En Nuan's understanding of Lu Chang'an, he forced her to accept his humiliation when she was awake, making the innocent, shy, pure, and holy girl tremble under his clutches and helplessly accept his abuse. Running wild is his style. Hey, it was probably just to help her take off her pants and put her on the bed. En Nuan judged accurately with some disappointment. What about Professor Lu? En Nuan couldn't help but look at her mother suspiciously. Why did she look for Lu Chang'an as soon as she woke up? A new year, a new January, or double. I wish you all that in the new year, you will meet the type of girls you like in Xiaohua's works, and they just happen to like you. Boss, please give me some monthly passes. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Can Ru Xiahua. Chapter 404. En Nuan carefully thought about what happened last night. At first, she was happily drinking grape juice, but Professor Lu and Professor Ling kept teasing Lu Chang'an to drink. The two of them were elders and beautiful women, so Lu Chang'an couldn't refuse them. Forget it about Professor Ling, she is very proud of herself as a hero among girls, and often talks about it by knocking others down at the wine table, but where is her mother? He was obviously just joining in the fun, or had bad intentions. And Nuan stepped forward without hesitation and helped Lu Chang'an drink a few drinks. So she fell first. She didn't know what happened after that, but she remembered that after rinsing her mouth, she sat on the sofa and wanted to drink some tea, and then persisted, but she didn't persist. Finally, she saw her mother and Professor Ling still drinking with Lu Chang'an. There is no doubt that she was lying on the sofa at first, and was later moved to the bed by Lu Chang'an, because when her own mother saw her lying on the sofa, she would usually just wake her up, and throw her away if she couldn't wake up. It was impossible to put her into bed without a quilt. It's a pity that I fell asleep. If only I had pretended to sleep, I could secretly observe whether Lu Chang'an was blushing, heartbeat racing, daydreaming or hesitant when he took off his pants. In the end, he couldn't resist the temptation of the super beautiful girl. Yes, all hands and feet. It's a bit sad. Next time he climbs in through the window, he will pretend to be asleep. No, my mind was distracted. The point was that my mother woke up early in the morning to look for Lu Chang'an, and she also looked into Nuan's room, which meant that she was drunk and didn't know if Lu Chang'an stayed overnight. Could it be that she was also carried to bed by Lu Chang'an? He went back, Lu Yuang rubbed his temples and sat on the sofa uncomfortably. And Nuan opened the study and took a look. I'm back. How can this Lu Chang'an be so good at drinking? Lu Yuang felt angrily and uncomfortable. Even though he felt uncomfortable after waking up from alcohol, he still didn't get him drunk. Why did you keep making him drink last night? Really, you're not a particularly good drinker yourself. And Nuan went to pour some water and put it in front of Lu Yuang. Lu Yuang drank it in one breath. Do you know when he left? I don't know, but he carried me back to the room. And Nuan looked at Lu Yuang with some suspicion, wondering if she was treated equally. Lu Yuang was stunned for a moment and looked at Nuan uncertainly. When I was drunk, he was still drunk. I should have walked back to sleep by myself, right? And Nuan's cheeks slowly swelled up, and her little fists clenched. I'm drunk, what's wrong with him taking care of me? I'm jealous of everything, even your mother's jealousy. Lu Yuang looked at Nuan's expression and knew what she was thinking. Struck first and hit Nuan several times in succession. And Nuan's momentum was wiped out by these few blows. She casually picked up the phone on the table with a bit of grievance, turned her back to Lu Yuang, unlocked it, looked at the message, and immediately showed a smile. Lu Chang'an left me a message, saying that you were drunk last night. He helped you back to the room, and then took me back to the room, and also let me look at myself. There was a little surprise. What little surprise? Lu Yuang was startled by the word surprise. He only thought about getting Lu Chang'an drunk, but he didn't think about the consequences of failure. Two stunning beauties were drunk. If Lu Chang'an was like that, a wretched villain, wouldn't it be possible to let him do whatever he wants? I don't know. And Nuan put down her phone, stood up, turned around and looked at herself. You can just dream, he can still. Lu Yuang didn't finish her sentence after thinking about it, but she took a serious look at it. She couldn't be sure. She wasn't going to just observe Nuan's development. She was already 18 years old. He is old and has no future. After Nuan observed carefully, she felt that she was thinking too much, but could it be that he massaged her while she was asleep and she grew taller? Although I had thought about this problem before and denied that Lu Chang'an would do this, I still went to the ruler on the wall between the living room and the bedroom to measure it, and there was no growth. So what's the surprise? And Nuan was about to go to the bathroom to take a shower and take a closer look at herself, when Lu Yuang noticed with sharp eyes, Your toes. And Nuan looked down at her toes, exclaimed, and then lowered her head to observe, wow, so beautiful. I saw a small classical beauty painted on each of Nuan's toenails. The pink base oil was filled with tiny people. The 10 toes were put together, like a painting of a beautiful lady. Open it, cut it one by one, and then paste it on her toenails. Even the nails on the smallest little toe have been polished to become smooth and shiny, painting a child whose details are difficult to discern with the naked eye. And Nuan quickly went to get a magnifying glass and looked at the details carefully. After saying wow in surprise, and Nuan stood up triumphantly, I asked you to do your nails without me. Mine is better than yours, it looks 100 times better. I'm your mother, he should give me face, right, Lu Yuwang thought with sparkling eyes. You're dreaming, and Nuan was startled, don't even think about it. I'm just talking, Lu Yuwang glared at Nuan angrily. This is not his biological child at all, right? Other people's daughters always want their mothers to enjoy it if they have any benefits, but she is really just talking about it. It would be fine if Lu Chang'an had a professional manicure. This kind of little fun that belongs to the boudoir, Lu Yuwang, how could he let Lu Chang'an help him paint on his toes? This girl is really lucky. And Nuan observed Professor Liu's expression and determined that she was just talking. Then she began to worry, I feel that women all over the world want to steal my boyfriend. What should I do? Lu Yuwang gave her a roll of his eyes. This girl in love is really obsessed. She is not just saying this. She actually believes that women all over the world covet her boyfriend. Women in love are really brainless. And Nuan didn't think that she had come to such a conclusion just because of love. After thinking about it, she couldn't help but take a photo of her toes, posted it on WeChat Moments and talked about it, and then used a magnifying glass to enlarge the picture. Detail of the photo shoot. I'm worried that others will compete with me for my boyfriend, and I want to show off my boyfriend. The more I look at you, the more stupid I feel, and I'm angry. Lu Yuwang stood up angrily, preparing to go back to the room to take a shower. After closing the door, Lu Yuwang glanced down as if inadvertently. The painting on his toes was still the same as before. Lu Yuwang felt that he was a little nervous, so he rubbed his temples and went to take a shower. Forget it, no matter whether Lu Chang'an is the uncle or not, I don't care about the past things. As long as Lu Chang'an treats Nuan well now, the two of them will be happy together, which is better than anything else. For a man who treats his girlfriend with such sincerity, Lu Yuwang also feels that his heart softens because of it, and hopes that Lu Chang'an can continue as before. And Nuan didn't go to take a shower. Instead, she sat on the sofa and sent messages to Lu Chang'an. I don't know what he was doing. He replied to messages very quickly today. Basically, Nuan sent her messages and he responded quickly. I really want to see him right away, throw myself into his arms like a baby, and tell him coquettishly that I really like such beautiful toenails. Lu Chang'an is running with his dog. When running with a dog, you need to take care of the dog's physical strength and speed, so you can't run too far or too fast. Lu Chang'an naturally runs very leisurely and lazy. I met a driver at the gathering place for motorcycle drivers in front of the train station. Lu Chang'an asked him about the price before and felt it was too bad, so he didn't take a seat, so he yelled at him. So Lu Chang'an asked him again today and didn't take a seat either. His tone was obviously much calmer. Lu Chang'an appreciated that he had become civilized, patted the dog's head and continued running forward. I ate a bowl of tofu at a breakfast shop next to Beisha Ancient Well. The boss said that it was made with spring water from Beisha Ancient Well. Even Lu Chang'an couldn't tell the difference between tofu made with ancient well water and tofu made with tap water. What's the difference, but the taste is still good. The boss sells both sweet tofu and salty tofu. Lu Chang'an eats a bowl of each. After running home and chasing away the children who were almost late and sitting under the sycamore tree waiting to ride their dogs to school, Lu Chang'an walked into the house and Zhou Shuling went downstairs holding a bowl of noodles. I ate it this morning after taking a look at the pig's trotter skin powder, Lu Chang'an refused. Zhou Shuling looked at Lu Chang'an, looked at her own noodles, picked up some noodles with chopsticks, whispered, "If you don't want to eat it, I will eat it myself," put the noodles into her mouth, and slowly turned around and went upstairs. Lu Chang'an changed his clothes, took facial cream and a house book and went to school. He handed them all to An Nuan before going to class. An Nuan was very serious, as if she were holding some kind of ceremony. She carefully took the house book, put it into the inner pocket of her backpack, closed the zipper, and uneasily placed the books next to the inner pocket to block the zipper. "When did you leave last night? Why didn't you wake me up?" An Nuan asked a little embarrassed. "I woke you up, so where can I find an excuse to help you take off your pants?" Lu Chang'an said embarrassedly. "You gangster," An Nuan twisted her body and snarled, "don't make such excuses in the future." "Okay, next time I won't make excuses and just do it." Lu Chang'an accepted the suggestion. "Hate. I have to go to the girls' dormitory before class and show them my toenails," An Nuan said proudly. "You must never ask for work for me," Lu Chang'an warned carefully. An Nuan was stunned for a moment before she realized what she was doing. She giggled and ran away without answering Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an didn't want Lu Chang'an to apply the facial cream on others, so she was willing to ask him for mercy. She was applying nail polish to other girls, so what? Possible. An Nuan would never agree to such a belittling thing about Lu Chang'an. He painted it on himself. It was just a little fun between lovers. What's the point of painting it on others? Whoever dares to make such a request, An Nuan will definitely fall out with her. It's really there is number 13 count. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 405. Lu Chang'an stepped on the fallen leaves and walked towards the teaching building. There were no classes scheduled this morning. It was a routine visit to the agricultural and forestry base for the freshmen of the School of Biology. The agricultural and forestry base has a long history. Its predecessor was to allow intellectuals to experience labor, to enhance their ideological consciousness, and to keep senior intellectuals from being separated from the lives and labors of the people. Later, it also assumed the task of a seed experimental base. Nowadays, in addition to one, a small part of the area continues to be used for scientific research and experiments, and most of the area is planted with seasonal crops. During the fishing season in one of the water areas, truckloads of fish are transported to various school cafeterias and provided to teachers and students for free. Professor Lu also planted fields and guarded orchards here. The intellectuals at that time were very attractive to young women. Professor Lu still remembers seeing female students running into other vigil rooms at night to talk about life with the teachers on duty. Ideal poetry. Professor Lu is not a nosy person. He only writes, praises, and describes in his diary. As for the outcome of these female students and teachers, he certainly didn't care. Some female students got nothing in the end, some teachers were ruined, or they had already prepared their escape, going abroad or going to sea, and they didn't care about the romance before leaving. There are also female students who have grabbed hold of teachers with outstanding abilities and successfully gained positions. People in that era were panic-stricken and did not have as much sense of security as they do today. Everyone was trying their best to grab something. On the contrary, many people now do not realize how much sense of security they have in their hearts, thinking that it has always been this way and that it is a matter of course. In this way, it was a bit far. Lu Chang'an was very willing to go and take a look. He remembered that Professor Lu also received many admiring looks from the surrounding village girls. The village girls who came to do part-time work to help rolled up their sleeves and exposed their white arms. The breast flesh you can see when you pull open your collar when wiping sweat, the wind blowing in your coat, and the delicate white waist are all the materials that local film directors can't put down. Lu Chang'an regrets that his diary did not record too many relevant experiences from that year in detail. Otherwise, it would be very interesting to sort it out now and write a romance novel with a rural theme. After all, there are fewer and fewer authors who have real experience in rural life. Well, there are quite a few people who are good at writing about widows stealing people. Lu Chang'an, gather together, Wei Xuanyi shouted. Lu Chang'an came over, and the person in charge of roll call was Yan Qingcheng. Once she saw Lu Chang'an, she would not have to greet Lu Chang'an to show that she was exercising the duties and powers of the squad leader. The most important thing is that since she learned about his licentiousness, in addition, Yan Qingcheng took the initiative to keep a distance from him. At first, she naively thought that Lu Chang'an was not a bad person. A person who can bring a delicate and elegant female teacher to a hotel and trample her wantonly should have the kind of aura around him that can drag people into a fallen world, right? Zhu Huntang, where is Zhu Huntang? Yan Qingcheng looked around and finally saw Zhu Huntang raising his hand behind several goddesses. Promise, what hand do you raise? Like a primary school student, Yan Qingcheng cursed and gave Zhu Huntang a smile as he walked over. I'll follow you in my own car. Zhu Huntang pointed to an off-road vehicle she brought with her. She thought that an off-road vehicle would be needed for agricultural and forestry bases. Although the department told them to act together, Yan Qingcheng didn't say anything. She is not a person who doesn't know how to adapt. It is normal for a student with such a special status to have privileges. If she is asked to be the same as ordinary students, that is to give looking for trouble yourself. After saying hello to Yan Qingcheng, Zhu Huntang glanced at Lu Chang'an and quickly ran to his off-road vehicle. She needs to keep a distance from Lu Chang'an today, lest Lu Chang'an hooks her stockings and tears her skirt for some inexplicable reason again. That would be terrible. Zhu Huntang needs to protect her socks and skirt from animals. Not as good as Lu Chang'an. There are fewer students from rural areas in the class, and most of them rarely go to places related to agriculture and forestry plantations, not to mention the fact that they don't have to go to school to have fun. Yan Qingcheng was the last one to get on the bus, and found that only Lu Chang'an had a seat next to him. He glanced at the car in front of him and saw that it was already moving. He had no choice but to sit with Lu Chang'an. This really means that the more you fear, the more you get. Lu Chang'an nodded to say hello. Yan Qingcheng forced a smile, and then saw Lu Chang'an taking out a book to read. It was neither a novel nor some ideological insight, but it had some depth. That's right, in fact, a playboy cannot be successful just by his background. He who is knowledgeable and talented is definitely more popular, so that he can attract more beauties who pursue freshness or literature. To Yan Qingcheng's surprise, the car was noisy all the way. Lu Chang'an had been reading quietly by the window without saying a word. He was not interested in participating in the game activities advocated by Wei Xuanyi and others, nor was he frowning and bored by the people around him. Amid the noise, it was as if he could be seen on the edge of two worlds, but he didn't know what kind of peace and joy he had found in his own world. He never looked at himself twice, unlike when he was sitting with Zhu Huntang, who teased Zhu Huntang who was so cute, or maybe he really thought too much. Although Lu Chang'an was a playboy, he was also a man with extremely picky tastes. A playboy with extremely high vision, his girlfriend is an uncontroversial school beauty like An Nuan, with a good figure and appearance, and his lover is a rare beauty like Qin Yanan. Even Zhu Huntang is not popular among thousands of boys. Perhaps because he is not as tall as An Nuan or not as tall as Qin Yanan, Lu Chang'an seems to have no intention of bringing Zhu Huntang into the harem. Yan Qingcheng believed that as long as Lu Chang'an was willing to put in the effort, Zhu Huntang would not be able to escape. Thinking of this, Yan Qingcheng breathed a sigh of relief, just like many girls who showed frightened expressions when they heard that there were perverts nearby. People often ridiculed you, it doesn't matter. Yan Qingcheng felt that she was thinking too much, and he is only a little taller than Zhu Huntang, but his figure and appearance are not as good. Even Lu Chang'an, a playboy, can't look down on him. He was thinking wildly along the way, mostly related to the boy sitting next to him. He soon arrived at the agriculture and forestry base, and most of his classmates got off the bus. Only then did Yan Qingcheng come back to her senses and saw Lu Chang'an sitting next to him without saying a word. When she came to her senses, she felt a little embarrassed and quickly got out of the car. Lu Chang'an walked a few steps and looked around. He saw that the familiar scenes were no longer there. Real estate opening was going on around him. After all, such a fully greened agricultural and forestry base was also a selling point and gimmick. There were also developers who had hoarded land here. The locals, the house has been demolished long ago, and only the name of the bus station is the only familiar feeling. Things have changed and people have changed. Come to think of it, there are no village flowers to see. Please give me a monthly pass. It's probably because I've been staring at the computer from morning to night these past few days. My eyes are red, swollen, itchy, and uncomfortable. I wrote too slowly today. I'll buy eye drops tomorrow and it will break out again. Some students still don't know the existence of a guaranteed monthly pass. Why not just press the word monthly pass and you might get one? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 406. The leading teacher was talking to the students about precautions. Lu Chang'an saw a small commodity selling kiosk next to the bus stop and walked over. There are very few residential areas and living supporting facilities around here. There are many construction sites and many construction workers. The business of selling tobacco, alcohol, and betel nuts is very good. For many construction workers, tobacco, alcohol, and betel nuts are their most luxurious consumption in life. Lu Chang'an bought a bottle of orange juice and drank it. The proprietress of the small shop is a young woman who is breastfeeding her child. She looks a bit like the familiar woman who used to carry a teapot and nurse her child on the ridge of the field. Lu Chang'an glanced at the business license on the wall and asked, "Who are you, Su Shiqiang?" The young woman glanced at Lu Chang'an in surprise. The name on the permit on the wall was her husband's father-in-law. The young man in front of her looked at him. How could he know his husband's name? "Who are you?" The young woman did not answer, but looked at Lu Chang'an with some vigilance and curiosity. Lactation specialist Lu Chang'an reached into his pocket. "Oh, I forgot to bring my business card." The young woman's cheeks were slightly red, but she was not angry. She just turned away angrily and stopped breastfeeding the baby in front of Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an smiled and walked away. Su Shiqiang was a young man from a nearby village. He had a loud voice and was rough and vulgar. He often teased older girls and sisters-in-law in the countryside. The sister-in-law of this baby must have married into a family in the village. "Lu Chang'an, we're leaving." Yan Qingcheng greeted him when he saw that other students were heading to the agricultural and forestry base, and Lu Chang'an was still looking around slowly drinking orange juice. The young woman who was nursing the baby took a look. It turned out that she was a student of Xiang University. This battle can be seen every year. At a young age, he was quite good at teasing women from good families. Lu Chang'an followed. There were some flowers and plants to visit from the drop-off point to the base gate. These were not available during Professor Liu's time, but they were not much to see. A group of freshmen who had never seen the world were very interested. Lu Chang'an walked behind the team, and Zhu Huntang kept a distance of 2 meters from him, pulling at the back and moving with small steps like a lady. In fact, Zhu Huntang has the elegance of a rich young lady most of the time. Maintaining her image is a required course for her. You must know that when she was in Taiwan, when a famous lady like her appeared in public, there was always some confusion. Tabloid reporters who know where to come from are staring at you, and you have to be careful not to be photographed ugly even if you pick your nose. It can be unseemly to be hyped up by the media. Of course, fairies don't poke their nostrils with their index fingers, really. If you don't mess with my stockings, I will come over and walk with you, Zhu Huntang said proudly from behind. Okay, Lu Chang'an said without looking back. Hee hee. Zhu Huntang ran over with her skirt in hand. After laughing twice, she poked Lu Chang'an twice with her fingers provocatively. Lu Chang'an ignored her. Zhu Huntang suddenly felt that he had regained some advantage and stabbed him twice more. A little proud, Zhu Huntang stopped poking Lu Chang'an. He was walking behind alone and felt a little lonely. After all, in the whole class, Zhu Huntang felt that Lu Chang'an was the only one he could play with. It was difficult for others to communicate and understand some habits and logic of Zhu Huntang. Lu Chang'an may not understand it very well, but when he doesn't understand, he often just nods or says oh. When getting along with him, he doesn't force the other party to understand him, and he must let the other party explain or chase. It feels quite comfortable to keep asking questions to reach a consensus. Have you been here before? Zhu Huntang came to a conclusion after observing. When did this happen? Let's go more than 30 years ago. Is it fun? It's okay. My two friends at the time, Su Zhancheng and Ren Changhong, and I got to know each other here. We stole oranges, watermelons, corns, vegetables, whatever we had. We fished in the water and dug in the fields all year round. You can hunt loaches and field mice in the soil, and sometimes you can even go to the thatch in the aqueduct to watch your daughter-in-law take a bath. Lu Chang'an had already recalled a lot and said smoothly. When you talk about these things, at least you show a little bit of the absurd embarrassment and ridicule of a young boy. Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an in confusion. You actually have the nerve to talk about things like peeking at other people's baths. Peeping at my daughter-in-law taking a bath is also very tricky. You have to look at the wind direction. If the east wind blows, the thatch will be low and cannot hide people. My wife and sister-in-law usually come when it is almost dark. It is useless to come early. Auntie. If you are discovered, you must run as fast as you can, as long as you don't get caught on the spot. You must know that the crime of hooliganism has not been abolished at that time, and the villagers are more tolerant, but it will be troublesome if you really want to care about it. Carefully, speaking of which, whose daughter has the best figure? By the way, Malays's daughter, even though he is disabled, his wife is a beauty. Lu Chang'an turned to look at Zhu Huntang, probably the same as you, about the same beauty. Before Zhu Huntang had time to lament that this man had so much experience in spying on his wife and sister-in-law taking a bath, he was a little angry and found it hard to accept. Do you think I'm the same as a village girl? At least what I meant is that you can still be considered a beauty. Lu Chang'an felt that this was the key point. You even think a cripple's wife is a beauty? It's so rare for you to say she is a beauty. Zhu Huntang continued to be angry. For the first time, she was compared to the village girls and their daughters-in-law. A village girl is better than a village girl, and a eldest lady has the temperament of a eldest lady. When men look at beautiful women, they look at different styles, just like eating. If a certain dish is delicious, you can't just focus on one dish. Bada try all the cuisines. I'm just telling you, Lu Chang'an is a very candid person. What's more, if you can't get tired of eating a certain dish and make people have no interest in other dishes and only focus on one dish, that's a matter of course. Zhu Huntang couldn't defeat him. Anyway, that's what this person is like. No matter what, it's his truth. If he doesn't have the truth, he will beat people. I'll see if there are any voles I can catch later. Lu Chang'an looked at Zhu Huntang with an invitation. Zhu Huntang ran away quickly. Entering the agricultural and forestry base, in addition to various scattered buildings, there are experimental fields and experimental forest gardens everywhere. 3 instructors lead classes respectively, and the tours are divided into 3 routes. Lu Chang'an's own class is basically on one route. Visiting all the way, I felt that over the years, agriculture has entered a new stage of development. The level of agricultural mechanization has improved year by year, the construction of farmland water conservancy infrastructure has been strengthened, the development of modern agriculture represented by facility agriculture has accelerated, and the level of biotechnology related to agriculture and forestry has been accelerated. Tell development, and look around at the various experimental fields and gardens that are monitored and operated by modern production management systems, all of which reflect the progress and modernization of the production process under the socialist system. Lu Chang'an walked around and finally found a vole hole next to a separate sweet potato field. After careful observation, Lu Chang'an determined that although this hole was a mouse hole, there were no mice coming in or out here. I had expected it before coming here. After all, this is no longer a few decades ago. The rodent infestation in this kind of place is now well done, but it is still a pity that there are really no voles to catch. Lu Chang'an, what are you doing? Yan Qingcheng couldn't help but ask when she saw Lu Chang'an squatting in front of a mouse hole. They were gathering to eat in the canteen of the agriculture and forestry base, but there was no one there. Yan Qingcheng knew at first glance that Lu Chang'an was missing. It's strange to say that he usually doesn't have much sense of presence, but this person is really not with everyone, but you can immediately notice that he is gone. Let me see if there are any voles that I can catch. Lu Chang'an casually took a stick and poked the mouse hole and said, I can't catch them even if I am with you. To catch voles, I have to pour smoke and water with them and bring the dogs. Yan Qingcheng couldn't help but laugh. This person is always unexpected. Oh. It seems you know a lot. Lu Chang'an nodded. It was just a method used by ordinary people. In fact, it only needs to emit ultrasonic waves of a certain frequency to make the mouse run away with its head in its hands. When it comes out of the hole, the mouse can still run away. Lu Chang'an? The voles in this season have plenty of food like sweet potatoes, and they are all plump and round. Children in our area catch voles and sell them to the town for 2 yuan each. When business is good, they can earn 100 or 200 yuan a day. Money. Yan Qingcheng hesitated for a moment and did not leave immediately. He stood there and chatted with Lu Chang'an. That's okay. When I was moving bricks on the construction site, I only paid 200 yuan a day. Lu Chang'an said a little angrily, but profiteers are profiteers. These rats are used for cooking or barbecue. Each one costs at least 10 yuan. Are you moving bricks at the construction site? Yan Qingcheng laughed. Don't be kidding. I'm not kidding, but I've only moved twice, and it wasn't just for living. The eldest young master experiences life and moves bricks. It is simply a cliché of a mindless urban romance drama. Yes, the eldest young master was framed or lost his memory. In short, he went to move bricks and met the heroine. The heroine treated him as an ordinary person. After a few episodes, the heroine fell into crisis when the two fell in love. The eldest young master has regained his spirit as a domineering president, crushing all the enemies and winning the beauty back. Lu Chang'an said with appreciation, it's quite good looking. TV is just TV. In reality, there are really young men who go to the construction site to move bricks. Yan Qingcheng said with a smile. So I am indeed not a young master, I am just an orphan. Ah, I'm sorry. Most people joke about this kind of thing. Although Yan Qingcheng can't understand why an orphan would get entangled with wealthy daughters like Qin Yanan and Zhu Huntang, he thinks there is probably an inside story behind it that he has no way of knowing. Fine. I've always wanted to ask you, why did you apply for Xiongnan University when your college entrance examination score is so high? Yan Qingcheng had her own reasons for wanting to apply for Xiongnan University, so she was a little curious to know if others would also apply for this school for some special reasons. It feels good to find someone who has the same starting point as me, and it feels good to have some resonance. First, my girlfriend applied for this school, and second, my father used to be a professor at Shonan University. It's a sentimental thing. Yan Qingchen nodded. He was indeed a romantic. It's such a thing for a couple who are top academics to go to the same school. Wait, his father is a professor at Xiongnan University, and his surname is Liu, so his father's surname is also Liu, right? Then your father is also named Liu. Yan Qingchen pulled her hair and asked nervously. This question was a bit strange, but if the person asking the question didn't bear his father's surname, it would be normal to ask this question. Then your father's name is Lu Jianxi. Lu Chang'an raised his head and looked at Yan Qingchen carefully. The name she mentioned was ordinary. In that era, men named Jianxi could be seen all over the country. Among the faculty and staff of Xiongnan University, there was a man named Lu Jianxi. There are two. Of course Yan Qingchen was not talking about another old Lu who had worked in the boiler room for 20 years, but Professor Lu, one of the founders of the School of Biology of Xiongnan University. Could it be that your mother's name is Yan Hui? She seems to have taken her mother's surname, and her surname is Yan. She happened to know that Professor Liu's name is Lu Jianxi, so Lu Chang'an came up with such a guess. It was not a coincidence. It was a coincidence that we met. Yan Qingchen took 2 steps back. Just as she said Professor Liu's name, Lu Chang'an realized something, and the name Yan Hui also confirmed Yan Qingchen. Please give me some monthly votes. With your encouragement, I will write to you tomorrow the touching memories of Yan Hui and Lu Jianxi, students and teachers. There is a saying, the world is full of peaches and plums, and they will be reported to Chang'an in one day. My brain feels like it's deprived of oxygen. I feel better when I take a deep breath. It's so hard to write. I'm so anxious. I want to explode. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 407. There are hazelnuts in the mountains and lings in the sky. Who cares, Western beauty? That beauty is here, a person from the West. By Feng Jiangzi, humble love can only be seen from a distance. Yan Qingchen was very surprised and confirmed that Lu Chang'an was the son of Professor Lu Jianxi. Ever since she entered Xiongnan University, she had been looking for traces of Lu Jianxi at Xiongnan University. However, she never expected that Professor Lu had disappeared from the world. But Professor Liu's son became his classmate. What she didn't expect was that she knew Lu Jianxi, and Lu Chang'an actually knew Yan Hui. This meant that for Lu Jianxi, Yan Hui might not be a forgotten name, and might even be of some importance. Let him inscribe or mention it in some places, otherwise how would Lu Chang'an know the name of Lu Jianxi, an ordinary student back then? Yan Qingchen took a few steps back and stood on the ridge of the field looking at Lu Chang'an with some confusion. This encounter inherited from the previous generation seemed to be bound by fate, and her inherent perception and mentality of getting along with Lu Chang'an. There was an overwhelming sense of shock. Lu Chang'an squatted in front of the field mouse hole and looked up at Yan Qingchen. The girl in his class was second only to Zhu Huntang in beauty. She had a tall figure and long legs. Although not as amazing as Buletin Anyuan, she was quite eye-catching. Her cheeks didn't feel too white and delicate, and her ordinary skin seemed to be just hereditary, lacking the delicacy brought about by a pampered life. After a closer look, she didn't have much in common with the impression of Yan Hui. Not every mother and daughter pair look like sisters like Professor Lu and classmate N Nuan. The impression I have of Yan Hui is the kind of girl found in old photos found on the internet. She is clean and fresh, with a natural and beautiful look. With a little makeup, she could be put on the photo calendar of that era. Your mother is so beautiful, Lu Chang'an sighed with emotion. Although he is surrounded by old friends all over the world, old friends who are closer in age will certainly feel more like the hourglass of time and have a sense of care. Is your father really Lu Jianxi? Yan Qingchen seemed to be led by Lu Chang'an to ask again. She looked at Lu Chang'an's appearance carefully. She didn't know if it was a psychological effect that made her feel that Lu Chang'an was different from the one she had seen in the photo. Lu Jianxi does have a bit of a resemblance, or a similar temperament. There is an indescribable feeling that he is a person with gentle eyebrows and good conduct from his face. Of course, this is just the first impression. Yan Qingcheng holds an extremely strong objection to Lu Chang'an's good conduct, and it is not as cold as a day. From now on, I will protect you from Hunan University. If you encounter school leaders, teachers, or students who bully you, you can come to me, you can protect me in class. Lu Chang'an nodded and sighed, I am so naive, Bao Li. I actually brought a snakeskin bag and wanted to take something back with me. I'll go look for a snake cave. Lu Chang'an, dinner is ready. The food in the cafeteria today is all food from the agricultural and forestry base, which you can't usually eat in school or in the city. Yan Qingcheng said to Lu Chang'an that I covered you and you covered me. She hurriedly called out to Lu Chang'an, who turned around and walked towards the wall to catch the snake. This man really left her speechless. Under normal circumstances, everyone should put aside other things, smile with surprise and re-examine each other's feelings, talk about each other's parents, and talk about what they know about them back then. Where is this person? Turn around to catch the snake. Then eat first. In an ordinary life, nothing important can happen every day, so basically the most important thing every day is eating. Since the mouse is not caught, the snake may not be caught either. Then eating is still important. How do you know my mother's name? Yan Qingcheng asked as she followed Lu Chang'an, wanting to know as much as possible. Your mother is good looking, so she will naturally remember her. Ah, have you seen my mother's photo? Some of Yan Qingcheng's guesses seemed to be confirmed. My father's diary says, well, it says. What is written and how is it written? Don't rush me, my memories are like a diary. It's easy to turn to one page, but if you want to see the adjacent page, you have to turn it again. It says, September 3rd, Friday, I met a girl named Yan while running. She was so pretty. The bangs in front of her forehead were stained with some fine dewdrops, and they were light and refreshing. On October 8th, I met the girl named Yan again. I found out that her name was Yan Hui. I accidentally touched her hand while collecting homework, and she showed a slightly shy smile, which was really cute. On October 15th, I met Yan Hui again, and it should be her boyfriend who is running together, right? A gentleman does not take away from others. Best wishes. Lu Chang'an. Read Lu Jianxi's diary. Yan Qingcheng listened with a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. On the university campus of her parents' generation, this feeling is what campus love looks like in a simple and beautiful way. But this Professor Lu, why did he feel so embarrassed when he saw his mother running with others? What about her boyfriend? On campus in that era, there were often many activities for men and women to participate in together, but at least it can prove some of my guesses. These words show that Professor Lu has a good impression of his mother and even plans to pursue her. This is what happened next. A gentleman does not take what others like and blesses him. What else? Yan Qingcheng asked quickly. I don't remember much, Lu Chang'an said after thinking for a while, then turned to look at Yan Qingcheng, who seemed a little too interested. Yan Qingcheng was looking at Lu Chang'an's profile, met Lu Chang'an's eyes, and quickly turned her head stiffly. Aren't you curious about why I know your father? Yan Qingcheng asked, looking ahead. There is nothing to be curious about. Some people are like the sun and moon in the sky, bowing their heads and disappearing, but they will not forget its existence. Lu Chang'an said matter-of-factly. Lu Jianxi is a low-key person, but people who have come into contact with him, he will never be forgotten. Lu Chang'an's confident self-confidence is still the same as before, but he is not using it to describe himself, but to talk about others, even his father. Yan Qingcheng is more accepting of it and does not think he is arrogant. She had already arrived at the restaurant while talking, and Yan Qingcheng did not continue to ask further questions. She felt that there were not only so many points about Yan Hui in Professor Liu's diary, and Lu Chang'an did not need to deliberately remember everything related to Yan Hui. He being able to recite some fragments casually is enough to show that Lu Chang'an's memory is amazing. After all, he is a top-level scholar, with a tiger father and no dog son. I don't know if Lu Chang'an would be willing to borrow Professor Liu's diary if I asked him to read it. It seems inappropriate to make such a request rashly. After all, the diary is such a personal thing, and there may be some records that are not suitable for outsiders to see, causing some unnecessary effects. Yan Qingcheng thought for a moment, but could not find a reason to explain to Lu Chang'an why she was so interested in Professor Lu. For the sake of his poor mother, he must find out what happened between his mother and Professor Lu, and whether his biological father is Professor Lu. What kind of relationship does Lu Chang'an have with him in front of him? Yan Qingcheng glanced at Lu Chang'an's back, feeling inexplicably nervous. Let's chat when we have time. While he was thinking, Lu Chang'an suddenly turned around and said to Yan Qingcheng. Yan Qingcheng nodded quickly, fearing that he would think she was not interested, so she had to seize this opportunity. Yan Qingcheng has been following Lu Chang'an, watching him choose a sweet potato, a corn, a boiled fish, and a multi-grain rice in the restaurant, which is enough to eat. Yan Qingcheng only ordered one portion of multi-grain rice and one portion of radish with chicken juice. Seeing Lu Chang'an sitting down, Yan Qingcheng was about to ask if she could sit across from him. She felt a few eyes on her and quickly sat on the seat next to the aisle next door. She knew that usually, in the women's dormitory, the girls Lu Chang'an would be discussed from time to time. Out of the kindness of insiders, Yan Qingcheng would often advise girls who think too much or are too interested not to pay too much attention to Lu Chang'an. After taking her over, she now looks like she wants to get close to Lu Chang'an. You can imagine how many names the girls would give her behind her back, such as green tea bitch and scheming bitch. Zhu Huntang glanced at Yan Qingcheng, and without asking, sat directly next to Lu Chang'an. Under normal circumstances, ordinary classmates and even friends would only sit opposite, but Zhu Huntang chose to sit directly in the four-person seat came to Lu Chang'an's side. No one looked at Zhu Huntang with strange eyes. It seemed to be a matter of course, because everyone could see that Zhu Huntang loved to play with Lu Chang'an, but there was no such thing as the extremely ambiguous relationship between men and women, or the feeling of ambiguity. You don't want to eat, what are you doing here? Lu Chang'an glanced at Zhu Huntang, who was sitting there with an empty dinner plate. Give me your sweet potatoes. Zhu Huntang faced Lu Chang'an while holding the dinner plate. Call Grandpa and I'll give it to you. Grandpa, Zhu Huntang said obediently. Although her voice was not loud, Lu Chang'an did not expect that she could shout out in a public place surrounded by classmates. So Lu Chang'an gave her the sweet potato. Zhu Huntang looked at the sweet potato carefully. It was a steamed sweet potato. He peeled it slowly, then peeled the whole sweet potato cleanly and threw it into Lu Chang'an's bowl. Although he couldn't understand why she suddenly wanted to peel the sweet potatoes for him, Lu Chang'an didn't try to understand and started to eat the sweet potatoes. I just saw that Yan Qingcheng was talking to you there for a long time. Zhu Huntang lowered his voice. In order to prevent Yan Qingcheng, who seemed to be peeking at him, from hearing him, he leaned into Lu Chang'an's ear and said. Lu Chang'an pushed Zhu Huntang's face away with the back of his hand. Lu Chang'an couldn't bear the bad breath when he spoke. Forget about ordinary bad breath, the smell in her mouth was actually sweet and sweet. Did she think she was a fruit? None of your business, Lu Chang'an replied. You actually use foul language, Zhu Huntang exclaimed in surprise. You use foul language with your granddaughter. Rude grandpa. Indecent. Although Lu Chang'an was the first to scold Zhu Huntang like this, Zhu Huntang still knew what it meant. She had also learned it at home, but because she was a fairy, Zhu Huntang would not say it. Let's go play, I want to eat. It's a bit annoying to be harassed for such a serious matter. You didn't catch the mouse, did you? Zhu Huntang was a little proud. He actually wanted to scare her like this. I caught a snake. Lu Chang'an pointed to his bag. Zhu Huntang stood up in horror and ran away from Lu Chang'an quickly, not daring to check if there was any snake in Lu Chang'an's bag. You must know that the Queen Mother sent 7 fairies to capture Bai Suhen, but Bai Suhen drowned the 7 fairies. She just a little fairy with no magic power would make ordinary snakes stay away from her. Lu Chang'an looked at Zhu Huntang's running back and smiled. In comparison, when they first met, Zhu Huntang was smarter and braver than before, but people are like this. It was just the same impression when they first got to know each other. I often wonder, is this the same guy I knew back then? He also knew very well that he could deal with fairies, but fairies were definitely the cold and unattainable type in front of others. After lunch, the activity continued with a visit to the laboratory of the agricultural and forestry base. Compared with the laboratories on campus, the equipment here is obviously much worse. After all, it is just a verification and testing base. The day's activities came to an end soon. The sun was shining in the sky, the birds were chirping, and people were defecating casually. Everyone excitedly discussed today's activities, saying that they had gained more knowledge and made up their minds to work hard in the future socialist construction. In school, we must contribute our own strength. Some students said they want to be agricultural researchers and sing their youth in the fields. Some students said they want to engage in research on agricultural mechanization equipment to improve production efficiency and reduce the burden on farmers. The students were in high spirits, and today's activity was a complete success. The bus has stopped at the place where you get off the bus. The teacher in charge was about to ask the monitors of each class to count the number of people getting on the bus. However, he saw 7 or 8 local men who looked like idle men gathered together and looked at the students passing by with unkind expressions. One of the bald men was standing next to a young woman holding a child. "Who is it? Which one is it?" the bald man shouted angrily towards the young woman next to him. "I haven't seen you." The young woman's eyes missed Lu Chang'an. She originally just casually mentioned that college students nowadays are very talkative. They even flirted with their sister-in-law who was older than them. She also remembered her name. The classmates who heard that lactation specialist called him Lu Chang'an. "It never occurred to me that my husband had drunk some wine. I don't know whether he was particularly angry or something else today, so he had to block him here. There are so many people on the other side, not to mention college students. If they really make a fuss and things get serious, it will definitely be my husband's side that suffers." "Lu Chang'an, who is Lu Chang'an?" the bald man yelled, glaring at the people around him. Although many people knew Lu Chang'an, they were not stupid. At this time, some students couldn't help but turn their heads and look away, but then immediately looked away. Some people are unhappy with Lu Chang'an and want to testify against Lu Chang'an, but Lu Chang'an is the one who beat up his classmates and student union cadres. If he testifies against Lu Chang'an now, will he still hang out in the school in the future? "I am," Lu Chang'an heard someone calling him and quickly raised his hand. "You're crazy." Yan Qingcheng was startled and hurriedly tried to pull Lu Chang'an's hand off. Regardless of whether she had any other relationship with Lu Chang'an, she was the monitor. "Wait a minute." The leading teacher stood behind Lu Chang'an, reaching out to stop Lu Chang'an and blocking the front. "What's going on? Your darling is Lu Chang'an. You're a great college student. You're teasing my guest. What do you think you should do?" The bald man came over, followed by the idle man behind him, and said to the classmates around him, "Everyone is civilized. Man, I'm only looking for him, Lu Chang'an, to tease the guests in my room. It's none of your business. You should get in the car and leave if you should." "I didn't tease her." Lu Chang'an shook his head. "You didn't tease her? You saw my guest nursing her baby, and you told her that you were a prolactinologist. Why did you produce lactation? What did you produce?" The bald man looked at Lu Chang'an angrily. Yan Qingcheng opened her mouth slightly, and was too embarrassed to hold Lu Chang'an back. This guy was really hopeless. Even if he was a playboy in school, he dared to tease the daughter-in-law of a member of society. Lu Chang'an, are you like this? The teacher leading the team looked at Lu Chang'an dumbfounded. He had also heard of this student. Yes, Lu Chang'an nodded. Are you speechless? I think that's it. Since you are a prolactinologist, just express some milk for yourself and forget about it. The bald man looked at Lu Chang'an expressionlessly. Otherwise I will find you. Go to school and see what you do. Your wife's eyes are bloodshot, her eyes are dull, her earlobes are red and swollen, her neck is thicker than normal, and the blood vessels under the skin on her chest are blue and purple and black. Her overall breast shape is abnormal. It's obviously breast inflammation. If my guess is correct, there must be blood in her milk sometimes, and sometimes the pain is unbearable. She often wakes up in the middle of the night with unbearable pain, and it is difficult to use a milking machine to smooth the flow. Lu Chang'an looked around and stood on the periphery. The young woman explained. How do you know? The bald man was stunned for a moment, his cheeks red. After all, this was not something to be discussed in public. The key is that it is normal to have a hard lump in it at this time. However, I saw a vague red, swollen and hard lump on the upper edge. The situation is very serious. It is better to take her to the hospital for a checkup as soon as possible. Your husband is usually too incompetent. Do you know that once a woman's breast glands are blocked at this time, she would like to cut them off, which is similar to the pain of being kicked in your crotch all the time. Lu Chang'an waved his hand and frowned. Why are you still standing here? Not taking your guest to the hospital? Baolai Baokai. Okay. The bald man was frightened by Lu Chang'an's momentum and turned around quickly, and said anxiously to the young woman, Is he right? Is he right? It hurts like hell. Your mother always said it's okay, just bear with it. She wouldn't let me go to the hospital. She said that if I get anti-inflammatory injections, I won't be able to breastfeed the baby. It's not good for the baby. The young woman felt aggrieved with tears in her eyes. You're going to die? You listen to her. What does she, an illiterate, know? The bald man quickly called his companions to leave, and surrounded the young woman into a van next to her. Lu Chang'an waved goodbye. The teachers and classmates around looked at each other in confusion and stared blankly at Lu Chang'an. They originally thought that even if there was no fight, Lu Chang'an would be unable to survive. Who knew it would end like this? Zhu Huntang admired them very much. As expected of her grandfather, she didn't even use the two elites in the bread man team she called over. In fact, no matter what, they would definitely not be used, and Zhu Huntang knew it. Yan Qingcheng let out a long breath. She couldn't tell whether Lu Chang'an really saw that the young woman had a physical problem, or whether he just fooled her away. But in addition to his learning ability, this man inherited Professor Liu's abilities. Presumably his behavior style and conduct are still much worse than his father's. It is hard to imagine that Professor Liu, who was like a campus idol back then, would even flirt with the daughter-in-law of the Xian Han family. Lu Chang'an, I will tell your counselors about this. The leading teacher had similar thoughts to Yan Qingcheng. What kind of prolactinologist could he, a freshman, be? However, these words sounded convincing, and it was good that he didn't make the matter a big deal, otherwise he would be in trouble as the leading teacher. However, Wei Xuanyi, Sun Shutong, Qin's Haiqiang and others knew that telling the counselor was equivalent to not doing anything to deal with it. How could the Voldemort demon deal with Lu Chang'an? As a girl, Yan Qingcheng thinks a little differently. Lu Chang'an has this idea, and teacher Qin will definitely benefit a lot in the future. It is said that the bigger the breasts, the greater the possibility of this happening during lactation. Yan Qingcheng couldn't help imagining what would happen to teacher Qin in the future. Lu Chang'an would definitely take matters into his own hands and not be like this bald idol guy. It was really embarrassing to let his wife suffer such a heavy crime even if he was embarrassed. Lu Chang'an saw that this group of people was still sparsely sparse, and he took his time and did not recover from the excitement. He got on the bus first. He was a little disappointed today. He neither caught a field mouse nor a vole. Snake, it's a good thing she didn't boast about Haikao to Zhou Dongdong beforehand. Otherwise, she would have stopped even going to the rice noodle shop after school and would have sat under the sycamore tree waiting to eat delicious food. Then she would have to face the fact that she didn't eat well. The sight of the child eating in a daze feels like he has lost all happiness, which really makes me have a headache. Yan Qingchen watched Zhu Huntang go to her own car, and then she thought of Zhu Huntang's calm expression just now. Zhu Huntang seemed to have guessed the ending. It seemed that she knew Lu Chang'an far better than the average person. Yan Qingchen was the last one to get on the bus. She originally thought that there must be no one around Lu Chang'an, but she saw a girl who was a little bold and playful. She sat next to Lu Chang'an's seat nervously and expectantly. Lu Chang'an was still leaning against the window with a book. Immersed in his own world, regaining his indifferent and lofty appearance, as if the guy who was messing with the idle men and young women before getting in the car was not him at all. Why are there so many people who have become difficult to understand? My eyes are more red and swollen today. I bought erythromycin ointment for 2 yuan apiece. I am more confident in these cheap medicines. There are 2,750 votes now. By 8 o'clock tomorrow night, there will be 3,750 votes. Xiahua will update with 10,000 words. If it is less, we will try to update more. If the gap is too big, Xiahua will update less and take the opportunity to rest. Double monthly pass, this requirement is not high. The chapter updated today is 6,000 words. I hope some students will not rely on their impressions to say that it is 2,000 words or 3,000 words. After all, if you clearly work overtime at work, but the boss says you don't work overtime, then that's okay. Not comfortable. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 408. Lu Chang'an returned to school and went to the dormitory to change the book he wanted to read. Even for Lu Chang'an, there are endless books to read, not to mention some traditional poems and songs, interesting essays and notes, or the essence of works born in other civilizations, all of which have meaning to be read again every once in a while. Serious works on modern natural sciences, humanities, and society are also read by Lu Chang'an. The more books he reads, the more interesting he will feel that he is an ordinary human being. Qin Yinan called and asked if he had time to come to the counselor's office. Lu Chang'an had nothing to do, so he said he would go there later. Passing by the pool next to the teaching building, Lu Chang'an saw a water pheasant standing on the water. Thinking that the soles of his feet were stepping on something under the water, Lu Chang'an was going to scare it, so he threw a pebble in. The water pheasant was really startled. It hurriedly hid under the water, leaving only the short tip of its beak exposed on the water, which reminded people of the fine work of hiding its figure. When they came to the counselor's office, besides Yu Zhen, there were 2 other counselors there. They all looked at Lu Chang'an when they saw someone coming in. Lu Chang'an suspected that as long as Qin Yinan was in the office, these male colleagues would be willing to stay here if there was nothing urgent. It was also a very comfortable and eye-catching activity to pass the time. Qin Yinan seemed fine. She seemed to be waiting for Lu Chang'an. Her handbag was on the desk, her computer was turned off, and she was drinking a carton of milk in her hand. Classmate Lu Chang'an, your performance outside the agricultural and forestry base today, do you have anything to explain? Qin Yinan turned his back to the 3 male colleagues. His tone was serious, but the look on his face was charming and smiling. In fact, he had already heard the teacher leading the team has told Yan Qingchen what happened. Now that he sees Lu Chang'an pretending to be a lactation specialist, he can't help but want to laugh. It's just a matter of helping others, but it has no value in learning. After all, it requires professional vision and is not suitable for other students to imitate. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said. Yu Zhen turned his head and couldn't help but glance at Qin Yinan. From a woman's point of view, Qin Yinan should be more intolerable, right? This Lu Chang'an, did you think you called him here to praise him? The other two counselors, after all, were not their own students. They looked at Lu Chang'an again. No one wanted to meet such a student. Today's matter was solved by him. If a conflict really happened and it turned into a group incident, the impact is too bad. Then I won't praise you. Qin Yinan put down the milk in her hand. Okay, Lu Chang'an nodded. Yu Zhen and the other two counselors adjusted their glasses almost at the same time. What is this situation? Is there something wrong with my ears, or are times changing and I can no longer keep up with the demands of student work? Especially Yu Zhen, I have seen some parents who overindulge their children, but at least in front of teachers and schools, these parents often act sternly. This is the first time I have seen parents who do not care about their children at all. Regardless of favoritism, it seems that he doesn't even care about his work stance. Help the teacher move these things. Qin Yinan took the opportunity to direct Lu Chang'an. In fact, this was also a kind of psychological enjoyment. Lu Chang'an held a bag of rice, a pot of tea oil and a box of moon cakes in his hands, and followed the swaying Qin Yinan. The Mid-Autumn Festival was coming soon. Lu Chang'an took a look at Qin Yinan's plump buttocks. The moon in the sky and the moon on earth each had its own charm. Just a casual glance and an objective description. Lu Chang'an immediately looked away and silently recited a few poems praising the moon. Why don't you say anything? Qin Yinan looked back at Lu Chang'an and found that he seemed to be wandering in space. When I just came here, I met a bird on the road. Lu Chang'an did not say that he was recalling the poem Yanjiao. Love birds. Your words are a bit too old-fashioned. It doesn't sound like the post-90s generation who have experienced the non-mainstream era. Lu Chang'an knew that Qin Yinan was talking about Lin Yulun's 1994 album title song Love Birds, which was very suitable for that era. To assist in pursuing girls. That era also gave birth to many singers who now only remember one masterpiece. But in that era when entertainment was lacking, one song was often enough to achieve fame. What kind of bird is that? Water pheasant. Why did the leech turn into a bird? Elvis pheasant. Oh, why did you suddenly say bird? Lu Chang'an sighed. I just saw the counselors secretly looking at you in the office, and I thought of the water pheasant. No way, Qin Yinan denied a little shyly. Although she knew that it was normal for her to have eyes peeking at her from time to time, but how bad would it be to just act like I know it and I am used to it? Who doesn't have a nuanced pretentious shyness? The male water pheasant is generally smaller than the female bird, but he has to bear all the responsibilities of building the nest, incubating the eggs and raising the chicks. Only in certain species of water pheasants, occasionally the female bird will step in to help with a little work. Some water pheasants are polysexual. Imagine a thin male water pheasant, working hard to build a nest, hatch, and take care of his children. One day the female water pheasant comes back and brings back two other male water pheasants. It's really annoying. Heart. Lu Chang'an sighed. What does this have to do with me? After Qin Yinan finished speaking, he bit his lip and looked at Lu Chang'an. He had to make it clear that she was not a male and female, and she was now his full-time nanny. What I mean is that human beings think that they are out of the same realm as most animals and plants. In fact, various phenomena in human society are no different from many creatures with large brains. So I am thinking about the so-called intelligence attribute of human beings. Is it not as tall as humans think? They are all just derived induced reactions dominated by the reproductive instinct. The Freudian school likes to link any analysis of human behavior with sex. When you are with other girls, do you behave like a straight man? Qin Yinan interrupted Lu Chang'an's nonsense and looked at him with some annoyance. When he was with An Nuan, Will you talk about the connection between pheasants and Freud? Why do you say that I am a straight man? If you don't like me or you are not interested, then you just say that I am a straight man. A girl's self-centered demands are unacceptable. Lu Chang'an shook his head. My current work and life are obviously centered on you, right? Qin Yan'an couldn't help but retorted. She could still handle Lu Chang'an's protest in person. She didn't just turn her back and speak in a low voice. Little daughter-in-law. Then who is working as a porter for whom now? Lu Chang'an raised the rice tea oil mooncake in his hand. Then just take me home. In this case, Qin Yan'an would not care about his shameful metaphor of comparing her to a water pheasant. Arriving at where Qin Yan'an parked his car, Lu Chang'an threw his things into the trunk and sat in the passenger seat. I remember you told me before that I can come to you for everything from longevity to facelift. Qin Yan'an started the car and distracted Lu Chang'an's attention with a strong push on his back, as if he was just recalling it inadvertently. The focus is on beauty. Lu Chang'an was not distracted. He had already anticipated it and naturally grasped the key point. Qin Yan'an didn't speak, but he discovered it. Sure enough, he changed the topic too abruptly and did not embed the word beauty into a more natural topic. I guess An Nuan took a picture of her toenails to show off, and Bai Hui saw it. Bai Hui sent it to Zhu Huntang, and Zhu Huntang sent it to you, you little girls. The last key incident involving Qin Yan'an was Qin Yan'an told Zhu Huntang, and Zhu Huntang told Bai Hui that it was the other way around this time. Anyway, after thinking about it, the point is that Zhu Huntang is a troublemaker. If she hadn't been keen on spreading news from both sides, how could she have had so many troubles? I feel a strong desire arise in my heart. Does Zhu Huntang's skirt make me want to die? From yesterday to today, I have been feeling groggy, I have a cold, and even taking any medicine has no effect. My gums are inflamed, my eyes are red, swollen, and itchy, and my physical condition is really bad. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 409. Lu Chang'an has not written the book 1000 Reasons for Being Late in High School, but 1000 Ways to Die in a Fairy's Skirt. Lu Chang'an has become interested in practicing it first before writing it. After all, if you don't count makeup classes in the 3 years of high school, the total class time is less than 1,000 days. So if you have 1,000 reasons, you will basically be late every morning, plus some other time periods, and you will have to be late for class every day. If the reasons are different, it would be a bit difficult for even Lu Chang'an to achieve this level. But Zhu Huntang definitely has more than 1,000 little skirts, and slowly crafting a way to die seems to be a bit challenging and very interesting. Of course, the necessary combination is Zhu Huntang's heart-rending screams and the expression of tears and nose running together, so that it is pleasing to the eye, full of fun, and has the motivation to continue. Maybe it can change Zhu Huntang's belief that wearing a beautiful skirt is a fairy, and let her think positively and correctly back to reality. I wonder if one day she will wake up and realize that the days when she was obsessed with small skirts and being a fairy were very stupid. Lu Chang'an will also be full of gratitude for what he does. After such thoughts passed, Lu Chang'an smiled when he faced Qin Yan'an. I guess, probably, maybe, that's probably it. Qin Yan'an was a little embarrassed. Could this person be more subtle or pretend to be confused? But he definitely didn't guess that she didn't have a strong desire in the first place. It was Zhu Huntang's encouragement. She didn't intend to betray Zhu Huntang. Guy Debord said in his famous work Society of the Spectacle, in a society where modern production is ubiquitous, life itself appears as a huge accumulation of spectacles, and all direct existence is transformed into an appearance. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. I found an answer. What do you want to say? Qin Yan'an said without embarrassment that she didn't understand what he wanted to say at all. This means that all women's beautification events can be regarded as fabricating virtual illusions, or a production process in creating a superficially perfect social system. Be more explicit. Shallow. Chinyanan was very impressed. The simplest everyday phrase can express the meaning, and you linked it to a French director. If at any moment, only simple everyday phrases are enough, what is the point of human language progress? What is the point of human literary creation? If I don't say that, how can I appear to be knowledgeable? You want to, many creators and commentators of literary works like to talk about its great influence and significance. In fact, most of the time, these works are just used to enhance the charm of your language. Lu Chang'an gave an example. For example, with the same appearance and figure, a girl who can memorize Gu Wen Guanji backwards and forwards, and a girl who can only tell you about the plot advancement of the overbearing president's cunning wife and the cute baby girls. The examples Lu Chang'an gave people the feeling that his point of view was indeed correct, but Chinyanan knew that he was just talking casually. For example, although Chinyanan cannot recite Gu Wen Guanji from top to bottom, some classics are still very impressive. However, she believes that Nuan will definitely read books like The Overbearing President's Dark-Bellied Wife and His Cute Baby, even if Nuan will not just read this kind of book. With the same appearance and figure, a girl who can recite Gu Wen Guanzi backwards and forwards, I think with her IQ and depth, she does not need to recite such classics to enhance her charm. She may be better at other talents. So being able to recite Gu Wen Guanji fluently is just her hobby, not to improve the beauty of her own language. Chinyanan still wants to oppose Lu Chang'an. I say it most of the time. I use these words just to prevent a bully like you from trying to fight with me, but a bully is a bully, and she turns a blind eye to my premise. Lu Chang'an shook his head regretfully. He smiled again, but how could there be such a good-looking guy? If he looks good, he still feels a little cute. Although his eyes were like teasing a child, Chinyanan was still a little reserved and proud, and his expression was a little shy. He looked at the road ahead seriously, trying to show that he was accustomed to such compliments. After all, if the eyes are a when it came to compliments, almost every man she had ever met would praise her hair and toenails. Thinking of her toenails, Chinyanan understood that Lu Chang'an's rambling was changing the subject and preventing her from directly asking him to be on her toenails. If you don't want to mention it, don't mention it, but Chinyanan still gave him a reluctant and slightly aggrieved expression that he understood well. When the car reached the top of the mountain, Lu Chang'an still carried grain, oil, and mooncakes upstairs. With your current physique, you should be as strong as an ox. Carrying 200 kilograms of stuff upstairs will not be a problem at all. When Yuran Nuan was with you, she couldn't even unscrew the bottle cap, right? That makes sense. And don't praise a girl with a small waist who is as strong as an ox. Okay, then, you are so powerful that you can conquer the world. This is really a more appropriate metaphor. Chinyanan seemed to accept it happily. Chinyanan changed into a pair of open-toed slippers. Her clean pink toenails were very beautiful, and sat opposite Lu Chang'an. I always thought you would tell me about the last time I met Nuan at your house. Actually, it's nothing. Both she and Nuan were quite polite, and she didn't say anything to ridicule Nuan. She just explained it. It was just an objective fact. As for the subsequent quarrel between Nuan and Lu Chang'an, it probably had little to do with him. Chinyanan glanced at Lu Chang'an with a slightly guilty look. This matter could have been ignored, but Chinyanan still wanted to know Lu Chang'an's attitude. Isn't the tacit understanding and respect for the bottom line between people formed through such testing and communication? There's nothing to say. You're not wrong about this, she's not wrong, and I'm not wrong either. Lu Chang'an went to coax Nuan, but did not apologize for the key. Okay, Chinyanan was a little surprised. That's the way it is with a lot of things, and there's no point in discussing what's right or wrong. Then why did you tear up Zhu Huntang's stockings later? Qin Yinan couldn't help but want to laugh. Zhu Huntang probably felt a little embarrassed about this matter and did not take the initiative to tell Qin Yinan. Until Qin Yinan went to Zhu Huntang, she found that Zhu Huntang was actually giving the room where she kept her skirts had a security door that was often only seen in places like vaults. Currently under intensive construction. Because she is so annoying, as we just said, no one is wrong, because each other's reactions are just based on something that happened suddenly. This is the so-called right thing, wrong person, but Zhu Huntang is not. It's the same, she treats people wrongly. When she encounters these things, I know what she is thinking is, how can I find something for Lu Chang'an to do about this matter? She just wants to provoke me when she has nothing to do. How can I not satisfy her when she is constantly stretching her legs on the verge of committing suicide? Lu Chang'an said with great certainty, I guess she encouraged you to come to me to have your toenails painted. This is just her first step. If I do it, then her next step is to take a photo of your toenails and send it to Bai Hui. It's okay to send it to Bai Hui, right? It's impossible for Zhu Huntang to tell An Nuan directly. Qin Yinan was sure that Zhu Huntang didn't add An Nuan as a friend. Because you don't know Bai Hui very well. Bai Hui and An Nuan have always been friends on the surface. Do you dare to believe that the two of them first opened the Yellow Diamond Nobles just to peek into each other's space without being discovered? The closeness of the two people's friends now shows that it is definitely they are all, the ones who pay the most attention to you, and the intimacy level is almost maxed out. The two of them have a tacit understanding of not criticizing each other on this matter. Lu Chang'an shook his head, and Nuan has already shown off what I have given her today. Bai Hui must have seen the painted toenails. It is impossible for Bai Hui to express sincere envy and praise. She would only want to find an opportunity to attack An Nuan. Qin Yinan looked at Lu Chang'an blankly. Are these little girls transparent in front of Lu Chang'an? When Zhu Huntang showed the photo to Bai Hui would send a comment, I saw a friend's toenails painted so beautifully, and Nuan would see it. Then it's okay if I don't take pictures of Zhu Huntang. Even if there is no picture, An Nuan will clearly realize that Bai Hui will never encourage An Nuan to show off after seeing this comment, so Bai Hui must be talking about someone else's toenails, and Bai Hui has already. After seeing An Nuan's toenail beauty pictures, I will still be so amazed. Naturally, it is a work that can be compared with An Nuan's toenail beauty pictures. Apart from me, who else painted it for others? Lu Chang'an knew very well that the beautiful girls in the movie do not seem to have high IQs. In fact, it is just because they like to show various abilities in front of their boyfriends. They look silly and think they are cute, but when it comes to certain things, their sense of smell has evolved. Same as dogs. What about you? You know Zhu Huntang will do this, but you also think, Zhu Huntang has to tell others, and I can't control her. Lu Chang'an has no reason to blame me. Qin Yinan's cheeks turned red and she quickly retracted her feet under the chair to hide them. If Lu Chang'an was wary, even beautiful girls who are known to have complex and changeable minds would not be able to hide the little juju in their hearts easily. Brother, how can we have so many plans? Qin Yinan pressed his palms under his collar and pursed his lips a little, looking aggrieved and a little angry. After being seen through, he had no choice but to take the opportunity to act coquettishly to cover it up. Anyway, he himself that said, if he is willing to call him brother in private, he can accept it. Yes. Since the last time I felt that An Nuan had no reason to be angry but she was actually angry, I started trying to understand more about you stupid little girls who are bored and looking for trouble. Lu Chang'an did not encourage more. Young guys are wasting time and lives trying to understand girls' minds, and their time and lives are not infinite. Instead of meditating on the unsolvable process and answers, how about playing Minesweeper? You can do it if you want. Is it possible that you will still hit me? Acting like a baby is an addictive thing. Qin Yinan groaned nasally, stretched his undulating body and stood up. In the evening, what do you want to eat? I'll cook it for you. Qin Yinan's cooking skills were by no means comparable to Zhou Shuling, who was inventing new dishes all day long. Lu Chang'an went to the kitchen to see what ingredients were available, and picked and ordered. While Lu Chang'an was in the kitchen, Qin Yinan quickly sent a text message to Zhu Huntang, "I will go over to your place to sleep tonight. Let me tell you, Lu Chang'an has seen through your thoughts. Take care of yourself. I'm not afraid of him." Zhu Huntang replied with 4 words, but the smell of lust was so strong that it even leaked out of the screen. Qin Yinan had no other choice but to leak the information and fulfill the sisterhood. Unless Lu Chang'an was just talking casually, who could save Zhu Huntang from Lu Chang'an's clutches? Qin Yinan prepared the meal and called Lu Chang'an, who was watching the sunset by the rooftop swimming pool and immersed in the horizon, to come down to eat. After eating, she took him home while she went to find Zhu Huntang. Judging from Lu Chang'an's appearance, he didn't seem to have any intention of making a special trip to trouble Zhu Huntang. After all, Zhu Huntang only had a motive and had not yet had time to successfully provoke Lu Chang'an. It is estimated that Lu Chang'an would not run over and tear Zhu Huntang's skirt now. Qin Yinan met Zhongqing, who was walking his dog downstairs, and asked casually, "Is this one still called a high-level Templar?" Zhongqing smiled and shook his head, "Its name is Sect Master." Qin Yinan nodded calmly, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, but he still couldn't hold it back. He opened his mouth and tried to cover it up with a deep breath, but he still laughed out loud. This name, what's so funny about this name, Zhongqing really didn't understand. Every time Third Miss calls its name, Third Miss looks very happy. Anyway, just don't tell Lu Chang'an. Qin Yinan sighed, why does Zhu Huntang like to provoke Lu Chang'an so much? The third lady said the same, she is playing on the roof. Zhongqing was warned not to call the dog's name in front of Lu Chang'an. There will be a day when no one can save her. Qin Yinan finished speaking and went upstairs. Zhongqing was still confused and called Master in a low voice. Master turned his head and opened his mouth and stuck out his tongue wildly. The inexplicable sense of crisis made him emotionally unstable. Qin Yinan first came to the living floor of Zhu Huntang's room, where the security director was supervising the testing of the safety door. Arriving at the top of the building, Qin Yinan saw Zhu Huntang sitting in the cabin seat of a small helicopter, with his 2 calves dangling outside. The white stockings were soft and delicate, exuding under the sunlight still hanging on the foothills. The light of justice. The time between you and Lu Chang'an ended so soon. Zhu Huntang was reading the book of songs in his hand. We just had dinner together, don't talk too much. Qin Yinan took a closer look and saw that Zhu Huntang's The Book of Songs was actually a phonetic version. This is normal. Ordinary people who have received 9 years of compulsory education can basically read the Book of Songs without any problems, but Zhu Huntang is Zhu Huntang after all. Zhu Huntang poked his head out and took a look at Qin Yinan's toes. He couldn't help being disappointed and threw away the book in his hand. Why are you so useless? Qin Yinan knew what she was referring to and looked up at Zhu Huntang with a self-conscious look. Why are you looking at me like that? Zhu Huntang was slightly panicked. I told you, Lu Chang'an guessed that you were the one behind it again. How could I? I didn't do anything. Zhu Huntang refused to admit, I'm not afraid of him. As long as I don't follow him to a place convenient for him to attack, how can he tear my skirt off in public? It is true that Lu Chang'an would not do this, but Zhu Huntang was so happy to provoke Lu Chang'an and refused to repent after being insulted. It must be some kind of pleasure of being am that is difficult for others to understand. Lu Chang'an has returned home, and of course he will not rip off Zhu Huntang's skirt just to deal with her provocation. That's a small thing that happens casually and shouldn't be done deliberately. Zhou Dongdong didn't go to the rice noodle shop to do her homework today. She was lazily leaning on the dog, which was lying under the sycamore tree. Seeing Lu Chang'an, Lu Sin shook his head and ran over. Zhou Dongdong, who lost his support, slowly fell to the ground, raised his legs and then dropped them, and then slowly got up. What are you doing? Lu Chang'an asked, touching the dog's head. I'm practicing dog riding. How many times have I told you that you can't ride a dog? Sometimes some things are inherently deficient. It's difficult for a spherical object to stay in place under the action of external forces. Do you understand? I do not know. Just know you're a fool. Am I really a fool? Zhou Dongdong hesitated for a while, not sure. Yes. It's not my fault that I'm a fool. Zhou Dongdong thought for a moment and realized that this wasn't a sad thing, then he climbed up Lu Xin's back. Lu Chang'an felt that although she was a fool, her spirit of fighting and defeating was really inherited from Zheng Shitu, who fought and failed and fought again and again. Lu Chang'an took Zhou Dongdong upstairs, who had just raised his legs and was about to step onto the dog. Zhou Shuling sent a message asking if Zhou Dongdong was at home. After Lu Chang'an replied to her, Zhou Shuling came back not long after. She took the marinated steamed pork upstairs, steamed it in Lu Chang'an's kitchen, and made fried beef tongue. A salad of tomatoes for dinner for one big and one small. As long as she wasn't a new fan, Lu Chang'an was still willing to eat it. He didn't have the problem of not having another meal after one meal. Watching Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong finish eating, Zhou Shuling cleaned up the dishes and the kitchen. Zhou Dongdong did not go upstairs. He sat on the sofa, stroking his belly and raising his short legs, contentedly watching the big TV at Brother Chang'an's house. Chang'an, I have something I can't make up my mind about. Zhou Shuling looked at Lu Chang'an hesitantly. She had no choice but to make up her mind on many things. She felt that only by listening to Lu Chang'an would she be able to make a choice with peace of mind. Just use the newly invented pig heart, pig lungs, pig farm pig liver powder and mix it with noodles. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. Zhou Shuling punched him angrily, a little unconvinced. Zhou Dongdong ate a lot of the powder he made every time. Mi Jiaoming invited me to attend a high school class reunion. Zhou Shuling sat on a small stool, rubbed her hands and clamped them between her legs, looking at Lu Chang'an seriously. This is easy to do. Ask Zhu Huntang to borrow a luxury car starting at 10 million. Just say hello to Secretary Zhong, and Secretary Zhong can make the decision. But if you want to borrow some better jewelry, famous bags for famous watches, just go directly to Zhu Huntang. Although Zhu Huntang is a fairy, she is willing to learn dance from Bai Hui to celebrate the opening of your store. I think she will still give you this face. In this way, you can have tens of millions of luxury cars and millions of dollars. With the above-mentioned watches and bags, you will be the most shining rich woman at the class reunion. Lu Chang'an provided suggestions based on the feasibility of practical operations. I'm serious, why am I pretending like this? Zhou Shuling slapped Lu Chang'an's knee angrily. How many years have you gone without contacting those classmates? How many years have they not contacted you? If not to show off, why did you go to such a gathering? Lu Chang'an waved his hand. Oh, it's up to you, I won't go. Zhou Shuling was very happy because Lu Chang'an understood the truth and made it clear at once. I recommend Super Monster Factory with swords hidden in the box. It has many words and is very fat and can be killed. Cold, swollen gums, red eyeballs, conjunctivitis, blurry tears, eyes full of gum, I beg for a monthly pass. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 410. Zhou Shuling sent a message to Mi Jiaoming to reject the invitation, and was about to go back to the store. Zhou Dongdong, it would be great if you could be as ladylike as Miss Zhu when you grow up. Zhou Shuling took one look at Zhou Dongdong's posture of half lying with his short legs crossed and touching his belly while watching TV, and she felt that her life was hopeless. Lu Chang'an was confused. Aren't you your biological mother? Why do you curse your daughter like this? What is a lady? Zhou Dongdong was also confused. A lady is a well-behaved and quiet girl. Lady, are you as good at eating as I am? That's definitely not the case, Lu Chang'an said with certainty. Hearing that the piglet used a wash basin to eat, a child had to use a wash basin to eat to prove that he could eat better than a pig. When it comes to eating, a lady cannot compare. I don't want to be a lady anymore, Joe Dong Dong was disappointed. In this case, he didn't want to be a lady at all. He couldn't eat a lot of food. If he could only eat one bowl of rice at a time, he wouldn't be smart and brave. I'll help Brother Chang and sweep the floor later. Joe Shuling wants to train Dong Dong next week. Woof, Joe Dong Dong said he heard it. Joe Shuling walked out and went to the store. Joe Dong Dong climbed down from the sofa, walked around the living room to find a broom, and then stood in front of the TV with the broom in his arms, sweeping the area in front of him without moving. You swept this area really clean, Lu Chang'an praised. Joe Dong Dong quickly moved 2 steps to the side and found a new place to sweep. Lu Chang'an was very pleased. After all, he was a primary school student. He was not like a kindergarten kid who charged in the living room with a broom, thinking that he was an uncle of the People's Liberation Army cleaning the battlefield. Lu Chang'an sat on the recliner and read a book. Joe Dong Dong swept the floor little by little, and finally came to Lu Chang'an. He turned around and glanced at Brother Chang'an's attentive look. He dropped the broom and climbed on top of him. He slowly fell down and moved his head away from Lu Chang'an little by little. He stretched his arms between the book and his stomach, and glanced at the book that Brother Chang'an was reading. There were no pictures at all. He suddenly felt sleepy and closed his eyes. When Joe Shuling came back in the evening, the TV was still on in the living room. The first one and the second one fell asleep on the recliner. She first hugged Joe Dong Dong back, then went down to the bedroom and took a blanket to cover Lu Chang'an. He put a pedal on the sole of his foot before taking off his shoes, turned off the TV and walked out of the living room quietly. It was 4 o'clock in the morning when Lu Chang'an woke up. I hugged the blanket and stretched out. The warm breath made me feel very comfortable in the slightly cool morning. I heard the sound of rain hitting the sycamore leaves. Since that thunderstorm broke many branches and leaves, the sycamore tree strives to grow more healthy branches. At a time when more leaves should have fallen, some leaves that originally had yellow spots turned out to be vibrant green. Juncha is not a rainy city in autumn. When the sound of autumn is getting stronger, the rainy night should also be more chilly. Lu Chang'an opened the blanket and kicked his shoes to the balcony. Feeling the moist smell in the air, he turned around and saw the white figure was wandering downstairs. The patter of rain seems to blur the boundaries of space. In many story and film plots, rainy nights always pave the way for an unrealistic atmosphere. A trace of rain, like a prelude to a ghost floating in, avoided the white figure, drifted randomly, and landed in front of Lu Chang'an's eyelids. Lu Chang'an jumped down and walked to Shang Guandandan. Shang Guandandan was wearing a long white silk coat, and you could see the golden background of the phoenix singing in the sky. Even in the dark night, his elegance and nobility could not be concealed. Morning. Shang Guandandan had long hair shawl, her bangs were moistened by the air, and her fair cheeks showed some nervousness. She bit her lip and stared at Lu Chang'an with wide eyes. She did not expect that Lu Chang'an would bump into her when she came out. This community is basically populated by old men and old ladies. If you are standing here at this time and they see you, you will have to hold a funeral today. Lu Chang'an thought about it. The last funeral in this community was not long before Qingming festival. Why? Ghosts are scary. Even your lord, do you dare to show yourself to a ghostly creature? Shang Guan said with disdain. You, with your long white clothes and black hair hanging around your body, are the standard image of a female ghost. Lu Chang'an reminded her to be self-aware. Shang Guandandan was stunned for a moment and looked down at himself. He was very confused and angry. How could this be the image of a female ghost? But she didn't care. She didn't want to stay outside with Lu Chang'an any longer, so she turned around and opened the door to go back. Lu Chang'an took Shang Guandandan's hand. What do you want to do? Shang Guandandan became wary, although she pulled her hand back without struggling. "I'll show you the world." Lu Chang'an reached out and picked up Shang Guandandan, and jumped to the roof of the opposite building. He knew that Shang Guandandan's range of activities was only covered by the shade of the sycamore tree that he had never seen before. "What are you doing?" Shang Guandandan was a little angry. Lu Chang'an did not ask her opinion at all and made his own decision. Lu Chang'an ignored her and left the community in a hurry. Shang Guandandan turned to look at the world outside, his face turned pale in surprise. Her pupils gradually dilated and her heart beat violently. She put her arms around Lu Chang'an's neck tightly, pressed her body tightly into his arms, bent her legs, and clamped her knees hard on his arms. This was the first time that she left the small area of the community that she was already familiar with and truly came to this world of monsters and monsters. This world on a rainy night is full of frightening and completely unfamiliar smells of a different world. Looking around, there is no familiar feeling under the starry sky. Except for the person he is holding tightly to. Lu Chang'an landed at a crossroads not far from the community. He wanted to put down Shang Guandandan, but Shang Guandandan held his neck tightly and refused to stand on the ground by himself, shrinking his legs. Like a noble monkey. Lu Chang'an had no choice but to reach out from under her legs and pick her up. Shang Guan gasped, pursed his lips and looked at Lu Chang'an angrily. I want you to hold me." Lu Chang'an and her looked at each other. Her delicate and slender body was not much of a burden to Lu Chang'an. Just holding her like this will inevitably remind you of some things from that year, some memories that were already blurred and chaotic. This is the basic expression of the world's legal principles. The traffic light, you see it red for a while and green for a while. Red means warning and prohibition, and green means passage. Remember this. Lu Chang'an believes that if there are other people like this, I have raised such an ancient old lady. In order for her to live a correct and active life and participate in the country's construction of a stable and harmonious life, I first need to understand this. Shang Guandandan glanced at it and turned away. In front of us is the current road. In the middle is the motor vehicle lane, which is where cars drive. You should have seen cars in novels. I have explained it in detail before and in the encyclopedia. There are non-motor vehicle lanes on both sides. With the sidewalk, you can just use the sidewalk from now on. Shang Guandandan looked around in Lu Chang'an's arms, his eyes swept across, his long eyelashes trembled slightly, with a few drops of water hanging on them. After mastering these 2 points, you can move around freely in the city. Learn slowly and get used to it. Lu Chang'an carried Shang Guandandan to the downstairs of Bailong Center. Shang Guandandan had seen this building that looked like a staircase leading to heaven under the sycamore tree. Just like she had just looked at it on a rainy night, its top was hidden in the clouds and mist. The impact brought by such a huge thing is difficult for modern people like Lu Chang'an to understand. Shang Guandandan grabbed Lu Chang'an's neck tightly, held his breath, and stared motionless in his eye sockets, peeping at the modern human beings at close range. The representative work of architecture, skyscraper. Apart from the fact that there are more people, modern cities are not much different from your time. Just wait until you get used to it. Lu Chang'an walked back with Shang Guandandan in his arms. Still, we still need to take a look, Shang Guan said with shortness of breath, looking around and then staring at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an smiled. As long as he took the first step in many things, there would be less hesitation and hesitation. For Shang Guandandan, the courage required to walk out of the small patch of sky under the sycamore tree was not Lu Chang'an's original coffin teacher at all. And the knowledge gained from the internet can be given. Strength is sometimes necessary.